Hello, hello, hello. This is Attorney Mike Grav. I'm coming to you from Chicago as usual, and sometimes they come in fast and furious. And that is the case today. We've got a guy out in Thurston County. We've got a crazy jury trial. Is he a sovereign citizen? Is he an auditor? Is he a YouTuber? Stick around and you shall find out.
Hi, sorry, my camera and video was Hi, sorry, my camera and video was blocked.
It's all right. Good morning. You are Ms. Geiger?
Mm-hmm.
I cannot just have him sit in the parking lot while you're in here on fucking court code because you know he's asleep or passing out or good shit.
No, he's not. He's cleaning up.
Your Honor.
Ms. Geiger,
Yes?
I have a mailing address for you, 1410 Magnolia Street Southeast, apartment
Yeah.
D20. Is that still that is? Are you getting text message reminders for court?
Yeah. It's not my residential, but it's my mailing.
Okay. Whoever that was in the background needs to understand that at the moment, you are in court. And even though it may not look like it so much from your side of where you're sitting, you are still in court.
Opening statement on behalf of the City of Tumwater. Mr. Fortunato?
Thank you, Your Honor.
That last bit was Natalie's fault, by the way.
Good afternoon, jurors. On behalf of the City of Tumwater, I want to thank you all for being here today. On the afternoon of July 20th, 2023, Mr. Jeremiah Farley, the defendant in this case, was told to remove his recording device at the Department of Social and Health Services office in Tumwater, Washington. After receiving requests to discontinue such recording, he assaulted Mr. Randy Rainey, the security guard present at the scene. Evidence will show beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Farley did assault Mr. Rainey in the City of Tumwater on July 20th, 2023. You will hear from three witnesses: Tumwater Police Department Officer Peter Navarro, Mr. Samuel Kirkley, and Mr. Randy Rainey himself. You will hear from Tumwater Police Department Officer Peter Navarro, who is one of the present law enforcement officers on the scene investigating the incident. You will hear from Mr. Samuel Kirkley. He will testify that he was present at the Department of Social and Health Services office, which I'll be referring to as the DSHS office throughout the duration of this case, on July 20th, 2023. He heard a verbal argument between Mr. Farley and a security guard.
Looks that way to me.
Mr. Farley refused to stop video recording within the DSHS office. Mr. Sam Kirkley observed a security guard grab for Mr. Farley's phone. Mr. Farley then struck and shoved the security guard. Patrons of the office appeared to be visibly displeased with Mr. Farley. You'll hear from Mr. Randy Rainey. He will testify that he was a security guard working at the DSHS office in Tumwater on the afternoon of July 20th, 2023, that he observed a man using a recording device within his office, in Tumwater, that the man denied having an appointment at the DSHS office that day, that he requested the man could discontinue recording per office rules, that the man refused to put away his recording device despite several reminders. Mr. Rainey then reached towards the recording device. Upon doing so, the man struck and shoved Mr. Rainey. You will see video footage taken from Mr. Farley's recording device that captured much of this incident. After hearing all the evidence, I will again be before you and ask you to find Mr. Rainey, or rather, Mr. Farley's guilty. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fortunato. As I said, the defense attorney may, members of the jury, would you now give your attention to Ms. Rowe for her opening statement on behalf of Mr. Farley? Ms. Rowe?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you, first of all, for being here. We really do appreciate you serving your country in this way. It's one of the foundational tools of our democracy, and it's very appreciated. What we have here is an incident involving a rogue security officer.
Failure to communicate.
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
I'm going to overrule the objection, and then in the opening statement, it indicated the attorney statements are not the law. Just remind the jury are the facts of the law. Just remind the jury of that opening instruction. And with that, Ms. Rowe, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. What we have here is a security officer's actions that went wrong. We are going to hear evidence, as the state just indicated, that there was an incident that occurred at the DSHS office between Mr. Farley and the on-site security guard at that time. Just as the state
That's what I
indicated,
initially thought.
this incident entailed this security guard lunging, and we believe the video will also show that the security guard lunged at Mr. Farley before he had even truly entered into the public lobby at the DSHS building. Lunged for his phone, Mr. Farley's phone, twice. And it was actually the security guard that assaulted Mr. Farley. Case, unfortunately, the video and the testimony we believe will show that in this case, the state got it wrong. In this case, the security officer actually assaulted Mr. Farley.
Don't worry, she gets worse.
As the state indicated, it was the securities officer's intent to gain control over Mr. Farley's personal property. In doing so, Mr. Farley acted in a reasonable manner to protect not only his person, but also his personal property. There is video that will be shown of the incident and where the incident occurs. The evidence will show that where this incident occurred, it wasn't anywhere near where Mr. Farley would have been given notice
Yeah.
that behind a certain area of the
And hard to believe, but I think they both actually are attorneys.
DSHS lobby, their recording video is prohibited. Well, the evidence and the video itself will show Mr. Farley didn't even get into the lobby in it or near the area where the signs that posted no video recording were posted. He had no notice. We'll hear testimony that Mr. Farley was in a public building, in a public space, and he was well within his right to video and record on his personal device. We believe that at the end of the state's case and at the end of this case, you will find it hard to find that Mr. Farley, find beyond a reasonable doubt that it was Mr. Farley who was the aggressor and who assaulted the security officer. We believe that at the conclusion of the trial, after all the evidence that's been presented to the jury, you will find that Mr. Farley is innocent of assaulting a security officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. And so, members of the jury, you're going to be excused for the day. And tomorrow we'll start testimony at 9 a.m. If I can instruct you all to be back in the jury room there at 8:50, and then we'll be ready to go at 9 a.m.
If you haven't hit like and subscribe, I just want you to know that you're hurting Jack's feelings.
Okay. It's the next day, and it starts with a bang. The beginning is my favorite part.
Asking if it could just be a little left or a little right.
What do you mean?
The podium?
The podium, I'm sorry.
Oh,
It's just right in the middle of everything for me.
yeah. That's just we're gonna leave the podium where it is, and that's
It was
yeah.
Curious request.
What's that? Okay.
And Your Honor,
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and leave it right where it is.
I was going to actually ask if I could move it during my
You can put it wherever you like.
quarantine.
And both counsel can put it wherever they like, wherever they're most comfortable.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Mr. Fortunato.
it's come to the city's attention that one of our witnesses did accidentally go into the juror room and did, I believe, have a limited conversation,
No
conversation with any of the jurors, but did walk into the juror room.
Oh, yes. This is all really happening. I didn't script it.
I believe it was a short encounter.
This is every bit as dumb as Jury Duty, the show on Netflix, which was written to be dumb.
Corey may be able to get more information on that. I know he had the chance to speak with the juror, and I believe it's been addressed, but we did want to make that aware of the court, counsel.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes, the witness indicated to me that he walked into the jury room not realizing it was a jury room, was looking for his name and saw on the paper juror and realized he was in the wrong room and immediately left.
Okay. Thank you. Defense have any comment on that? I'm not sure what to, if there was no interaction or.
All right, what was Jury Duty on? So I credit the right people. I don't know. It was funny. It wasn't Netflix. Is it Amazon or something? I don't know. I don't care.
How many? Do you know how many jurors were in the room when they?
Based off when I saw
You may have seen Law Talk with Mike on Netflix.
the witness after he left the jury room, I would say at least 5 of this, I guess 6 of the 7.
Yeah,
I suspect, because there was one juror who was not in the room, and they actually passed each other in the hallway when he walked up to me and approached me to tell me about what had happened. So,
Ms. Rowe.
The jurors actually engaged in conversation, what the conversation was about.
Thank you.
Well, we can
But-
bring your witness in. We'll find out from him first.
Okay.
And there's going to be another issue that I'd like to address too,
Oh,
Your
this is the
Honor.
doozy.
I'm not sure if you want to do it now.
Yeah, well, you can let me know what the issue is.
Your Honor, my client has a website, a YouTube channel, and he received a message.
She's just doddering. She doesn't know. It's as if she didn't have a chance to discuss it with him first and work out these details before she starts running her mouth to the judge about it.
On his channel, a comment on his channel for is it this when it happened 39 minutes ago?
it was about
He had a comment on his channel, and Judge, if you knew his channel, there's usually not any. So this is kind of strange for us all.
Okay,
an hour ago.
about an hour ago. Could we address this outside of the witnesses?
Okay. First of all, let's handle this.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh,
So
sweet Jesus.
go ahead. What's your name, sir?
Samuel J. Berkeley.
Okay. And then I'm told that you, for lack of a better term, wandered into the jury.
At first, we got to deal with the staffer from the prosecutor's office that wandered into the juror's room. I mean, this is so good.
Room. I was being an idiot.
Well,
And when I realized my name wasn't down, I just walked out. Didn't talk to anybody, didn't even talk about the case, nothing. I walked in,
they said their names were on the paper. When I realized my name wasn't on the paper, I kind of connected two and two and then felt like an idiot because I was a witness and not a juror.
Okay. How long were you in there? Were you even in there a full minute?
Maybe 2 or 3. I mean, I walked around the desk, looked for my name.
Okay.
When I realized my name wasn't on any of the papers, then have a conversation.
Did anybody say anything to you or?
I just said, they said your, name's on the paper. So I looked at the paper, went around.
I see.
The case wasn't discussed. Who I was, who they were wasn't discussed. I saw 2 names and I couldn't tell you who they were because I was just looking for mine.
Okay. Hang on just a second.
Yep.
Ms. Rode, and again, I have not sworn you in. It was just having a conversation. Do you have any questions? Do you have anything you wish to ask him?
Were there any comments made by the jurors indicating they didn't know why you were there or?
No, they just said, we found our name on the paper. Like the jurors found their name because it was in a big desk and there was a badge.
And then, there were jurors and they were actually supposed to be there.
Or, a number, juror number sticker and their name. When we realized once I connected the dots, then I realized I'm not a juror. I'm a witness. I should have known better.
So when you say that someone in there said, we found our names on this list, was that in response to you asking a question?
No, I was just looking for it. And I was like, the conversation was short, honestly. I'm not a morning person, so I'm not really awake, but nothing, like I said, the case wasn't discussed. Who I wasn't discussed. I looked at 2 of the paper for the names. I didn't read below it. And then I said, oh crap. Then I walked out realizing where I was, but yeah, I don't know. Nothing about the case was discussed. Who I was discussed. Who they were wasn't discussed. This case, even the case that they were all on wasn't discussed. So
could you point out the 2? Were there no, there was like 5 people in there.
3, 4, because there was 2 or 3 empty desks or seats with names. So I said, okay, no problem. One of these is mine. Then when I realized none of them were mine, I realized my mistake, felt like an idiot and walked out and grabbed somebody and they hooked me up with him, put me in the right place.
I don't have any further questions.
You have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
You can go ahead and go back outside, sir.
Okay.
Ms. Rowe?
That is a good
Yes.
idea.
Do you have any, again, my inclination is just, it doesn't appear to me that there was certainly no intentional inappropriate contact, and the contact that was made, there was nothing inappropriate.
Is there any way we could confirm with the jury pool who might have spoken to the gentleman?
Well, we'd have to bring them in one by one, but, okay. So, but before we do that, if you want to do that, we'll do that.
You wanted to hear the issue that I was also going to raise?
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Can't wait.
So my client has a YouTube channel, and about an hour ago.
Yeah, why don't you put your phone down there, sir?
Well, I need to
I
read.
know you don't. If you want to talk to me, you can. And then if you need to consult with them before you talk to me, you can do that also.
Okay. He was showing this to me because he wanted me to read the post on his YouTube channel. But someone at Aussie Gardner 1773 wrote this posted this on his YouTube channel. Saw you in court and thought I might enjoy your content. Just subscribed. We do not know if that is one of the potential the jurors that are there in that one of our jurors or not. But that post does raise some concern, and if the court, I would like to find out whether any of these jurors, what do you call? I'm not all into this YouTube stuff, but that name is, what did you call it? It's a handle, I guess it's not their email. It's kind of like their moniker, but it was very concerning that said, saw you in court and thought I might enjoy your content. Just subscribed. It says
She's living in the ham radio era.
just subbed, and Mr. Farley indicates that means subscribe.
Your Honor, the state would object. The city would object that there's no indication in any of that statement.
Okay, so hang on, just okay. So yesterday, I instructed the jury not to
This
not
is
to,
beautiful.
do any research, do any engaging in any social media. YouTube's not social media, but I'm going to assume that I presume that they follow those instructions. That handle that you mentioned, that's meaningless to me. We are also streaming, all this is live streamed. And so anybody, and I know just from my own experience, a number of people follow court on YouTube.
Right there, the judge is thinking, this is probably going to be on Law Talk with Mike. I mean, he's not going to say it out loud, but that's what he's thinking.
Quite frequently. And so when someone says they saw him in court, that could be anyone, anywhere watching this trial. And so I'm not going to inquire as to the
post.
I'm not going to bring these jurors in and ask if you subscribe that. If subsequent investigation shows otherwise, but I even gave the example yesterday about how someone was posting, I think I did anyway, posting on a social media website from a jury room. In some case, it had to be returned. I said, don't do that. And so I'm not going to, again, without more, I'm not going to quiz these jurors on that. And with regard to the other issue, I'm going to reverse myself a little bit, and I think we'll bring them all in at once. And then I'm going to ask, I'm going to mention someone walked into the jury room. Did anybody have any conversations about the case? If anybody raises their hand and says yes, then they'll learn that who the person walked in was a witness when that witness is called. But if they have any conversations with that individual, I will say someone did walk into the jury room. He walked out. I'm told it was for a short period of time. Was there any discussion about the case with that individual who walked in? And somebody raised their hand, then we'll send the rest of them out, talk to people who raised their hand. If they say no, it was just incidental, harmless contact, state can call its first witness and we can go forward. You may be seated in the courtroom. Good morning, members of the jury. Welcome back. Sorry for the delayed start. But here we are getting started. Before we get started, I just want a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, I think I forgot to mention yesterday that while we're in session and trial session, the clerk is going to keep your phones, and then so we're not during. If you need them during the break, you contact someone. Of course, you can have them. You'll have them over the noon hour for lunch and things of that sort. We just keep it away from you while we're actually in session to avoid the distraction. So I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry about that. If we were taken by
You can thank defense attorney Karen for this.
By surprise. Second thing I want to mention is, we do take breaks periodically in the morning. Sometimes we don't take them often as people would like or need. If at any time anyone ever needs a break, just get my attention, wave your hand, say, excuse me, we just have a quick break. And then I'll certainly allow that. So there's that. Third thing I want to mention, I am told that before 9 o'clock, before you came into court, someone not on the jury, for lack of a better term, wandered into the jury room. And I don't know if you had any contact with that individual. Did anybody have any conversation or contact with that individual who walked into the jury room, or have any sort of conversation at all? I will tell you that person is going to be a witness, and I just wanted to make sure if anybody had any conversation with that person. I'm told he walked in, looked a little bit, realized he was in the wrong place, and then left. But there was no conversation of it. Wasn't? Yes, ma'am. Okay. And then left. Okay. Any conversations beyond that? Okay. Mr. Fortunato, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the city would first like to call Officer Peter Navarro.
I'm just gonna say one more time.
It just doesn't get better.
Again, we're all spaced out in this facility. Anytime you can't hear anything from either an attorney or a witness, and I'll say this for all the witnesses, please let me know and I'll have them speak up. Mr. Fortunato, you may inquire.
Good morning. Could you state your name for the record?
Peter Navarro,
And would you be able to spell that for us?
PETERNAVARRO.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a police officer with the city of Tumwater
How long have you been a police officer?
since March of 2018.
What kind of training did it take for you to become a police officer?
So I attended the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission, BLIA, or Basic Law Enforcement Academy, from July through November of 2018. That consists of 720 hours of course material where we learned about criminal law, patrol tactics, application and execution of search warrants, processing and handling of evidence, driving under influence, RCWs.
Practice DUI?
It also included unarmed self-defense and firing ranges and things like that.
And you said this was at the academy that you learned this?
Yes, sir.
And have you had any training additionally after graduating the academy?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay, could you go into a little detail about that?
Within the department, we conduct training periodically about every other month, 6 times a year, where it is department-based training where we go and reinforce the same teachings that we learned at the academy, and just kind of expand on it and stay current with current case law, and making sure that the practices that we are enforcing out there within the community are within case law and current standards as well.
Have you had any specific training on assault investigations?
With what I received over at the academy, understanding the RCW, and then with outside of that, I've taken some other training when it talks about responding to critical incidents, but that's very, as far as it wasn't very specific to assaults. It was more to a bunch of different crimes.
Have you ever conducted an assault investigation?
Yes, I have.
Would you say about how many, ballpark, if you had to guess?
That's in the hundreds.
Hundreds, okay. In your duties as a police officer, do you often interact with security guards?
Yes, I do.
By the way, the jury is currently out on this. They closed proofs, argued, and it's out to the jury. We do not have a verdict. I'm monitoring that on another screen as we go.
And kind of in what capacity do you interact with security guards primarily?
They're either usually a good source of information for incidents that are happening within that particular area that they're protecting, whatever that building or department store, whatever the case may be. I've also interacted with them as far as them being able to identify potential suspects of crimes that have occurred within that area.
Okay. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about the incident. Were you on duty as a police officer on July 20th of 2023?
Yes, sir.
And what were the hours of your shift that day? Do you remember?
That specific day, I don't remember, but I usually work the 0500 or 5 a.m. to a 4 p.m. shift.
Okay. Do you remember being dispatched to the Department of Social and Health Services office in Tumwater that day?
Yes, I do.
And what had reportedly occurred that day?
The initial call came out as an assault in progress within DSHS.
And where is this DSHS office located?
Just north of Israel Road on Capitol Boulevard, about the 6800 block, I want to say.
And in what city is this located?
Tumwater.
In what county?
Thurston County.
In what state?
Washington State.
Were you the only officer to report to the DSHS office that day?
No, I was not.
What did you observe when you arrived at the office that day?
Upon arrival, there was a witness or a gentleman that was outside that had already started getting some information, and I asked that gentleman to just kind of stand by until we figure out exactly what was going on. He kept on pointing towards the inside. I was also met by a security guard outside, and at the same time, that's also when I met Mr. Farley that was standing outside, and I recognized him from previous incidents.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to sustain the objection. I'm going to instruct the jury to disregard the answer just given. And you may ask your next question.
Your Honor,
Yes? And that answer will be stricken also.
thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, if we could have a sidebar.
Members of the jury, we're going to take you, sometimes we have breaks when we don't anticipate them. This is one of those times. And so you're going to be taken back into the jury room for just a second. This shouldn't be too long. And then we'll be brought back in when we're done here.
Your Honor, this was one of the issues that was specifically addressed yesterday in motions in limine.
It was.
And the court's ruling on that was that the court was going the court granted my request that the officer not reference any prior incidents that he may have, or occasions that he may have dealt with Mr. Farley. The reason for that motion in limine was to prevent the jury, was to protect my client from jurors assuming that prior content with my client was of a criminal nature. I'm surprised that wasn't relayed to Officer Navarro.
If it wasn't, I don't want to know what nature it was.
But I would be moving for a mistrial.
Mr. Fortunato?
Your Honor, you clearly stated that this is something that's going to be stricken from the record. As is mentioned in every jury instruction, you are not, and the jurors have been reminded several times, do not.
I mean, I didn't catch this. I didn't see the motions in limine. They're up, I think, from yesterday. If that's a clear violation of a motion in limine, it's bad. I don't know why she apologetically asked. I'd be jumping up and down saying, I want a mistrial right now. I wouldn't apologize about it.
Regard any information that was stricken from this court. I think upon a limiting instruction in that regard, what's already going to be in the jury instructions, this is not something that needs or nearly rises to the level of something that would cause a mistrial to be warranted. You've made it clear to the jury that this is something that they are not to engage with, not to entertain, and this is not something that is going to derail.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
So the city strongly opposes defense's motion as it is improper.
Your Honor, my 17 minutes of law practice, I don't think that this rises to the level of mistrial.
And there is no adequate basis.
So I guess I share Ms. Rowe's concern that this was litigated pre-trial in that this specific issue, these words were, she made a motion in limine to keep that out. That was granted. We talked about whether or not identification, and that maybe could be brought back in if identification became an issue. So I'm pretty concerned about that. That wasn't discussed with the witness beforehand, apparently. But on the other hand, I don't think this rises to the motion for mistrial is going to be denied at this point. I did instruct, I sustained your objection. I
yes, if anyone knows how to do that via StreamYard, how to speed it up, yeah, you're correct. When she comes up, she's such a slow talker. I will do it if there's a way. I don't know how.
Instructed the jury to disregard the answer. And I don't think that even though that has been heard by the jury, I don't think that's so prejudicial. to warrant a mistrial at this point. So the motion for mistrial will be granted, but again, as I said, the objection was sustained. I've already stricken the answer, instructed the.
Okay, so the defense attorney, in my opinion, is just painful. Okay. But on the other side, the state has now had their witness wander into the jury room and and then just violated a motion to eliminate right out of the chute in argument. This is a rousing start on all ends. Don't worry, it gets worse.
The jury not to regard that, or to disregard that. That's also included in all final instructions. They'll be instructed not to disregard anything that I have stricken and asked to be removed. So they'll be instructed on that again during final instructions. But that's a long way of saying that the motion for the mistrial is denied at this point.
And Your Honor, if I could just make a record, I do, it's our position that there are things that are said that can't be unheard. I believe that the opportunity for prejudice outweighs the probative. And
oh my
I believe
God.
that officers.
She's making the right argument, but it's so slow. It's unbelievable. In my practice, I'd say you can't judge, we can't unring that bell. Boom. That's it. That's all an attorney would say 9 times out of 10. That implies that it's more prejudicial than probative.
Navarro's testimony contained inadmissible matter, so I would simply like to make the record for that.
Sure, and I agree with you that it was an inappropriate answer and in violation of the motions in limine. I'm just saying it doesn't rise to the level of a mistrial at this point, and you've made a sufficient record in that regard. And we can bring the jury back in.
Well, before we bring in the jury, Your Honor, may the state potentially at least take the opportunity to inform Officer Navarro regarding the court's ruling with the motions in limine?
Yes, I would hope that he has gotten the message at this point. But the issue was whether or not Mr. Farley had been recognized with previous contacts. I didn't rule that wasn't to be mentioned unless certain things happened, and now it was mentioned, which is why we're here now. So don't mention that.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then with that, you can bring the jury back in and let the other witnesses. Apparently, there's another police officer, or is he?
No, he won't be called, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Surely is.
Thank you.
Jury can come back in.
But not as
Mr.
cute.
Fortunato, you may ask your next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Pardon that delay. Officer Navarro, could you describe the layout of the DSHS office kind of briefly, what the layout of the place looks like?
So the building itself is a multi-storied building. On the first floor, when you first enter, there's actually 2 points of entry. There's, I would say, the north entrance, and there would be an east entrance is the way that I would describe them. If you were to come in through the east entrance, it's a long hallway or passageway that leads you to the elevators. And then at the very end, it leads you through a set of double doors on the left-hand side that take you into the DSHS area. There's bulletin boards, informational packets that are up on that in that long hallway. If you were to come in through what I said will be the north entrance, that goes directly into the lobby area, the public entry for
that's all we need here.
DSHS for anybody that needs to conduct business in there.
Okay. You said you weren't the only law enforcement officer that was present on the scene. What did the other law enforcement officers do when they arrived? Or I guess when you arrived, what were the other law enforcement officers doing at the scene?
So I had one officer that remained with me, and then another officer that was Detective Bowling that went, eventually he went inside to go speak with the parties involved and any other witnesses.
And you said you were outside. Did you observe any other patrons present at the DSHS office?
I did. There were some that were inside of the lobby area, and then a couple of them that were walking in and out And that same gentleman that I had initially contacted was standing off in the distance, just kind of waiting, like I asked him to be contacted by another officer.
And did you remain outside for the duration of your investigation, or were you inside and outside?
No, I primarily stayed outside.
Okay.
Detective Bowling was inside.
So what did you do after arriving at the DSHS office in Tumwater?
Upon arrival, I had contacted Mr. Farley and essentially went into trying to figure out what exactly was going on. I had advised him that our interaction was being video and audio recorded. And then that's when he had given me his statement of the reasons for the call, which was later relayed to Detective Bowling.
And I'm going to cut you off here a little bit. You said you spoke with an individual and you described him as Mr. Farley. Is that individual in this courtroom right now?
Yes, yes.
Would you be able to point him out by describing an article of clothing to me?
Sure thing, sir. He's currently wearing a black shirt with glasses and I believe tan pants and boots.
And Your Honor, let the record reflect that Officer Navarro is pointing to Mr. Jeremiah Farley.
It will.
What was Mr. Farley's demeanor when you were speaking with him?
He was conversational with me, as straightforward and direct as one could possibly be when interacting with a law enforcement officer, telling me exactly what had occurred
and
from his perspective.
What was his facial expression? If you can remember.
Yeah, from what I can remember, he was, I wouldn't say that he was mad or aggravated, but he definitely had a look of concern as to what had taken place.
Okay. And kind of what was his tone of voice when speaking with him?
Again, very direct, very straightforward and to the point.
And what was Mr. Farley doing when you arrived at the DSHS office?
He was exiting out of the DSHS office when I encountered him. He was walking east down the little small corridor. There's like an overhang with some pillars, which is where I had interacted with him. And it's a very short period in time there from the time he exited to when I started talking to him.
So you said you spoke with Mr. Farley. What did he say to you?
He had told me that he was inside of DSHS, videoing, recording what the business practices were inside of the building. He told me that it's a public building, that he had the right to be inside of the building, recording its daily activities, to which the security guard had.
And I'm going to stop you right there. Did he mention having an appointment with the DSHS office that day?
No, he did not.
Okay. Did he mention anything about being with someone else or if he was on his own that day?
He told me that he was on his own. There was nobody else there present with him.
And what did he say happened? He said he mentioned that he walked in and was recording. What did he say happened next?
He told me that he had walked in through what I had described as the east entrance, or I'm sorry, the west entrance, now that I'm thinking about my directionals there. He had walked in through there, was going down the hallway, again, recording the day-to-day operations, what takes place within the building.
And did he mention why he was recording?
He says that it was, he's a freelance reporter, a freelance reporter that was capturing footage for what's take place in the public buildings.
Okay. To your understanding, was he allowed to record in the DSHS office?
Within the DSHS office itself, there are some signs that says that there's no recording or videotapings that should be taking place. I also understand the the right of being able to record in public spaces and in buildings as it sees fit. But my best of my knowledge, within the DSHS building, they have, because they deal with people's personal information and it's discussed out in the lobby, they're not to be recording in that area.
So you said he walked into the office and he was recording. What happened after that?
The security guard, from what Mr. Farley had told me, had approached him, had told him to stop recording, that recording was not allowed. There was a verbal exchange between the two gentlemen. At one point, from what Mr. Farley had described to me, was that the security guard had encroached into his personal space.
And I'm going to stop you right there. Did Mr. Farley say anything about him discontinuing his recording after being advised that it wasn't allowed in that room?
No, he told me that he was still recording.
And did he mention why he continued recording?
He believed that it was his right to record within that public space.
Okay. And you can go ahead and continue. I apologize for interrupting you.
So when the security guard approached him, Mr. Farley had told me that he had encroached into his personal space, causing him to just kind of back off a little bit, telling him to step away from him, that he had a right to be recording. There was a discussion or verbal altercation between the two of them.
And you say there was a verbal altercation and this discussion occurred. Did Mr. Farley mention where within the office this discussion occurred?
It happened in the hallway leading through the double doors, as he was walking through the building.
And you say these double doors, where did these double doors lead into again? I know you had mentioned that, but I want to be clear here where that is.
They lead into the DSHS lobby where the public is conducting their business and their information is being discussed.
Did he mention anything about other patrons being present in the office at the time?
Yes, he did.
Okay, go ahead and continue.
So, while this took place, it happened, like I said, at the double doors leading into the DSHS office.
Well, I mean, this happened tonight. It's not live. I have a recording, but it was like an hour ago. Having said that, the fact pattern is the same as every 1A audit that ever was.
At some point during this altercation, it became a little bit. It became on the physical side between Mr. Farley and the victim, and then that's when I believe other patrons within the lobby started becoming upset at what just took place.
And you say they became upset. How was that known? Did Mr. Farley describe any manifestations of that anger?
He told me that there were other people that were yelling at him within the lobby. He said that there were telling him to leave, that they shouldn't be recording in there. It was nothing physical. They were all at a good distance from him, yelling from across the room. I'd probably say the lobby is about maybe half the size of this room, maybe a little bit larger, but excuse me. They were just kind of yelling at him, telling him to stop, to leave the security guard alone. The security guard at one point broke contact with him. I believe his supervisor came in and took him away, from my understanding of it.
So you said that there was a physical altercation between Mr. Farley and the security guard.
Correct.
And this occurred after the argument between them.
Correct.
Did Mr. Farley mention to you anything about the security guard's reaction to that physical altercation?
He told me that he had that he was obviously upset. He had taken a couple steps back. I believe there was some chest bumping that was happening between the two of them, some shoving that occurred. And again, this all happened right there at the entryway, kind of like the cusp between the hallway and the DSHS lobby.
I'm not familiar with it.
Was Mr. Farley recording while he was speaking with you?
Yes, he was.
Did your office attempt to retrieve the recording of the events that afternoon?
from Mr.
From Mr. Farley, yes.
Yes, we did.
And how so?
In the course of our investigations, knowing that he was recording, I had asked if he could show me the video, to which he declined. Later on, as the investigation progressed and probable cause was established for Mr. Farley's arrest, we ended up seizing the video camera along with his cell phone. That way we could apply for a search warrant and obtain the video based off of the belief that there was some element to the crime that would have been captured within that video.
And you were saying throughout this encounter, Mr. Farley was recording the event. Was this just on one device, or what was the, I guess, device that he was using to record, if there was just one?
There were actually two devices, to the best of my knowledge, which were the two that were seized. One being his cell phone, which I saw him holding on with his hand, and the other one was it's a body-worn camera. I believe it's a Bob log, or it's almost like a GoPro type camera that he had on his backpack satchel type.
And you said there was a search warrant that was applied to get the video within these devices. Was that eventually accomplished?
Yes, it was.
And so you were able to retrieve those recordings?
Yes, I was.
At any point, did Mr. Farley deny to you intentionally touching the security guard?
Mr. Farley said that he had done all that he can to defend himself. He felt that he needed to defend himself from the security guard based off of his actions. But then that's when the security guard left and he ended up taking off. Without rereading my report, I can't remember specifically if he had said whether or not he had pushed him back or not.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Rowe, you may cross-examine.
That was
Thank you,
awkward.
Your Honor. Good morning, Officer Navarro.
Good morning.
That was awkward.
Officer Navarro, you indicated that you have been with the city of Tumwater for about 5 years. Is that correct?
Correct, ma'am.
I don't know how to speed it up.
Okay. So
I want to.
I want to.
You come to the panel, up to the podium, and you can speak a little louder.
I cut a bunch out.
Thank you, ma'am.
Move this aside. All right. So, Officer Navarro, you indicated that you have been with the city of Tumwater since 2018. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you also indicated that you received assault training.
Yeah, that's one thing here. Before I get too deep, and I don't know, but she almost seems like she's post-stroked me. I have no idea. I'm just saying that's kind of the vibe I got out of it.
What is your understanding of what an assault is?
It essentially means that it's any
Objection, Your Honor. That calls for information that wouldn't be known to this witness.
That's sustained. The jury's going to be instructed on the law. You may ask your next question, Ms. Rowe.
So you indicated that you were dispatched to DSHS and the dispatch indicated that there was an assault in progress. You also, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Or yes, ma'am.
Now you indicated you described the office layout.
Yes.
I went through this. I didn't see a gap this long, but I missed this part.
That's exhibit 1,
Got an exhibit for you.
exhibit 2, and exhibit 3. Do you recognize the what those pictures are of,
Yes, ma'am, I do.
and what are they of?
The DSHS lobby.
And do they look to be where the incident occurred that day?
Yes, it does, ma'am.
And what's been described as exhibit 1, is this the east entrance that you were referencing or the other entrance?
This appears to be the north entrance.
And bringing your attention to what's been marked as exhibit 3, is this the east entrance coming in from the hallway that you were referencing?
Correct. That is the entrance that comes in from the hallway. And I believe I mislabeled that earlier. I meant to say it's the west entrance.
Okay. Thank you. Your Honor, may I publish these to the jury?
Well, are you asking to have them admitted?
I am asking that.
Any objection to the admission of the 3 photos,
No,
Mr. Fortunato?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, they will be admitted, and yes, you can publish them to the jury.
Thank you.
You could have objected foundation there, but to the guy's credit, he either doesn't know that, or B, he thinks whatever, she'll eventually get it in. It'll take 3 hours. We'll just let it go. It's pictures of the lobby. Fine. Did she just get lost or what? Did she pass out? I thought I had edited this thing. I can't tell you I know what's going on right now. So we're all on the same page. She lives. That's good.
So you're in your Officer Navarro, in your description of the office layout, do those pictures depict what you understand to be the DSHS office?
Yes, ma'am.
And do they also depict the 2 points of entrance? I believe you indicated that it's the east entrance and the north entrance.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated in your testimony that the east entrance was located in a long hallway. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that hallway contains bulletin boards. Have you ever looked at any of the information that's posted on the bulletin boards?
I have in the past. Yes, ma'am.
And you also indicated that there were doors, double doors on the left side. That was the left side of the east entrance that is part of the long hallway.
Yes, ma'am.
And you also indicated that when you arrived, you made contact with Mr. Farley. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you advised that you were recording your interaction with Mr. Farley.
Yes, ma'am.
And was Mr. Farley also recording you during that contact?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you
We'll go check
ask
on that.
him
Thank you.
during that time to cease his recording of your contact, of your interaction?
As in to stop it?
Yes.
No, ma'am.
So it seems like you were recording him and he was recording you. Is that correct?
Correct.
And when asked about Mr. Farley's demeanor, you indicated that he was conversational and straightforward in his answers. Was he polite?
Yes, ma'am.
Was he respectful?
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated that his facial expressions showed concern. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what he was concerned about?
Essentially what had taken place within the DSHS lobby. He was obviously upset about the interaction that he had with the security guard, and the reasons why we were contacting each other at that point.
Yes. Was he calm?
Sorry?
This case.
His demeanor calm also?
Yes, ma'am. I would say he was fairly calm.
And you indicated that Mr. Farley, as part of your interaction with Mr. Farley, you indicate he told you that he was inside the department, the DSHS office, investigating or looking into their business practice and daily activities. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. That was never. Facts not in evidence, Your Honor. That wasn't asked on direct.
Overruled. You can ask you may need to repeat your question, Ezra.
Did Mr. Farley tell you why he
This is really Clash of the Titans.
was there at the DSHS office?
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
It's overruled in that it's an admission by a party opponent, and also you would discuss with this witness statements attributed to Mr. Farley.
I'm here.
And so given that you started there, Ms. Rowe will be allowed to continue. So you can answer that question.
Yes, ma'am. Could you repeat the question again, ma'am?
Do you remember Mr. Farley telling you that he came to DSHS regarding the business practices and daily activities?
Yes, ma'am.
Did that cause you concern?
No, ma'am.
You also indicated in your testimony that Mr. Farley indicated that he was recording the day-to-day activities and that he was a freelance
I think
reporter
so.
of public buildings. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did that cause you any concern?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Objection, Your Honor, relevant.
I'm going to sustain the objection to the last question.
You also indicated in your testimony that you believed that there were signs regarding recording. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever seen any of those signs personally?
I've seen them inside of the lobby. If you were to come in through a door that leads you directly into the lobby, they're right there off to the left, ma'am. Where there's some windows where businesses gets conducted.
So are the signs located closer to the north entrance or closer, or are the signs at the east entrance?
The ones that I was referencing are at the north entrance.
And the north entrance was the opposite side of the room as the east entrance?
Correct.
Are you aware of any signs around the east entrance?
Those signs wrap around the same windows where all of the business is conducted, and right next to the east window, right next to the east doors there's also a where everybody has all of their intake taken care of. That also shows a sign.
We're gonna do a signs everywhere there's signs group sing
Personally
along.
viewed a sign at the east entrance?
If my memory serves me correct, I've seen them there before. Yes, ma'am.
And they are inside the lobby?
Yes, ma'am.
Providing you with what's been marked as exhibits 1, 2, and 3. Can you point to an area where you believe the signs are located?
With exhibit 1, it's not within view of that picture, but as I'm looking at it, it's off to the right of it where the windows all start.
Okay. And I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 3. Can you indicate where you believe the signs were located around the east entrance?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that I had seen signs in the past near this window where there's a kiosk there.
I saw the
Do you
sign
know if you saw those signs there that day?
and it opened up my eyes.
Not that day. I can't definitively say that I did or did not.
I saw the sign.
And if I could review what's been marked as exhibit number 2. Are there any places where the signs would be located in that picture?
Right by where this lady is sitting at on the left-hand side of the photograph, and then by the empty chair on the right-hand side, there's some signs there that says no videography or taping or recording.
So if you could you circle what you believe to be the notices regarding video recording?
Your Honor, objection. This is an exhibit. That defense is showing this. This is not something that the witness should be highlighting or marking in any way.
Okay, overruled. You can.
Could you circle where you believe these signs are in that picture? You indicated one was behind somebody.
Those are the 2 that I can remember at this time.
The Constitution. You remember when the sloths were civil servants in that cartoon? I can't remember what it was. That's what we're dealing with here. I wish I had a clip so I could show you what I'm talking about. Seriously, thank you, Golden Girl. That's right. Where else are you going to find hot action like this, huh? Only on Let's Talk with Mike. No, it's not frozen.
In line where these pictures are is this first picture of the north entrance. You indicated.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
This is the east entrance.
Yes, ma'am.
And the picture in the middle, is it basically the lobby area, a portion of the lobby area between the 2 entrances?
Yes, ma'am. It's essentially capturing it almost in a panoramic fashion, if you will, of if you were to come in through the north entrance and look to your left, that's essentially what you would see if you would pan from the left to the right.
And according to your testimony,
I'm
you
thinking about it.
indicated
I am.
that Mr. Farley entered on the east entrance.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sweet Jesus! What?
We need Judge Bryant to get in here and move this thing along.
Do you know where inside the DSH office the incident was alleged to have occurred?
It started in the long, narrow hallways that leads to the double doors that lead into the DSHS lobby. The physical altercation took place just inside of those double doors of the DSHS lobby, right next to the intake kiosk or station.
So according to your information, the incident did not occur in the actual middle of the room lobby itself. Is that correct? It basically occurred in the doorway of the east entrance.
Objection compound.
Overruled.
So the incident, the physical altercation itself took place by the doorways. And then when the hollering from the other patrons that were inside, that was more towards the middle of the lobby.
I'm sure she's got stuff scheduled.
So it did bleed into the middle of the lobby.
Now, in your view of the DSA,
Ma'am, are you a whore?
the two places that you circled on the page where the notices were, they were not at, those signs were not located right inside the east entrance. Is that correct?
Correct. Where those two that I circled are in the middle of the lobby.
And so if the if the alleged altercation happened in the east side doorway, had Mr. Farley seen, did he have prior notice of any recording rules?
Objection speculation, Your Honor.
Sustained.
It is your understanding that the incident took place, I believe you said, just inside the double doorways.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you also indicated in your testimony that you weren't concerned about Mr. Farley recording you in your interaction with him. And I believe you indicated that what is your understanding of a person's right to record?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Sustained.
Is DSHS a public building?
To the best of my knowledge, it is a public building.
Is the lobby of DSHS a public lobby?
It does have public access.
And are there any requirements that a person has to have a set appointment in order to go to the DSHS office?
Not to my knowledge, I don't think they need to have an appointment. They could definitely walk in and, attempt to receive services from DSHS during their normal business hours.
And are you aware of any video cameras that might be located in the DSHS office?
Not sure if they have video surveillance of that building or not. I did not inquire with them at that point.
So you're not personally aware that the DSH office is under camera surveillance?
Correct. I'd have to inquire with them and find out.
Did you inquire as such that day?
No, I did not, because I was with Mr. Farley. Detective Bowling was inside speaking with the security team.
To your knowledge, did Detective Bowling
Objection,
view
Your
any?
Honor. Hearsay and speculation.
I haven't asked for any statement, Your Honor.
We'll go ahead and ask your question, then I'll rule on the objection.
To your knowledge, did Detective Bowling watch any surveillance video of the incident that happened that day?
Okay, I'm going to sustain the objection, and that's, the objection is sustained.
Detective Foley's part of Beverly Hills Cop.
Have you seen
Makes no
any
sense to me.
video surveillance cameras from the DSHS office?
Not that I could recollect right now. No, ma'am.
Finally. Finally. People are understanding.
Now, you indicated that according to Mr. Farley, he was there conducting or viewing the business practices. And I believe according to your testimony at some time that I believe you indicated that
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
the security guard
He's Goat Boy?
told Mr. Farley to stop recording. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know where the security guard was located when he asked Mr. Farley to stop recording?
In the long hallway that leads to DSHS.
It will be before we're done. You think I'm kidding?
And you also testified that Mr. Farley indicated that he did not stop recording in the hallway and that he believed it was his right to record. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
She's just slow and repeats everything. Going nowhere.
Did you at that time inform Mr. Farley that regarding any laws regarding recording?
No, I did not inform of any laws about that.
Did you discuss any particular rules regarding the DSHS office regarding recording?
No, I did not.
Was Mr. Farley arrested or cited for recording?
Cited?
Not for recording. He was cited and arrested for the assault in the 4th degree.
I would turn it up if I knew how to, but I don't from here.
So even though you indicate that you believe there are signs that indicate that there should be no recording, that he was not cited or arrested for that charge, why not?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Have you ever arrested someone for video recording in a public space?
No, I have not, ma'am.
During the investigation that followed that day, were there any patrons that contacted law enforcement requesting that any video be erased from that day?
I didn't have any patrons approach me telling me to release or erase any videos.
Any patrons that expressed
No spoilers.
any privacy concerns that they felt were violated that day?
Objection,
No.
Your Honor. Hearsay and relevant.
Sustain the objection.
Direct, yeah.
Now, you indicated when you arrived, you saw Mr. Farley exiting the building. Did Mr. Farley appear to exit the building to speak with the responding officers?
I think that was by chance that he was exiting at the exact same time that we were arriving. But I do not believe that he was trying to evade or flee or get away from the situation. But he did make it a point to come and interact with us.
Did Mr. Farley share with you his opinion that he believed he was assaulted?
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Overruled.
Your Honor, ask for a sidebar, please.
Okay, jury, we're not. Well, actually, why don't we're coming up on our morning recess time. We're going to go ahead and take a morning recess right now. And so you can go and break. We'll be in about 10 minutes and we'll reconvene.
His opinions about things. If he wants to take the stand and relay his opinions, then he can take the
Who's gonna
stand.
speak for the state here?
The state is
I
speaking
thought
on this one
Mr.
right now.
Mr. Fortunato started, but
The state's addressing this, or Corey Thompson addressing
Okay,
the
thank
city
you.
for the city.
yeah, you're right. Thanks.
The state does have continuing concerns that an admitted exhibit was altered after its admission. We'd ask that a new exhibit of the exact same be readmitted. We'd stipulate to its admissibility, but an exhibit that's been admitted and published to the jury has subsequently been altered. And that is problematic.
Okay, so I don't think it's problematic. I mean, I've had many trials where a lot of times people will have the easel, get something admitted, and they'll have the go up there and mark on that during the course of the trial. To me, that's no different from what's happened here. We don't do that as much anymore, given that a lot of it's digital.
Well,
to have a witness testify to an exhibit, then admit it, and then mark on the exhibit consistent with their testimony. That happens all the time, doesn't it?
No, Your Honor. I've never in 7 years, never had an exhibit admitted and marked. Now, I have had exhibits admitted after they were marked up,
okay,
off of an easel, for example. Like I have a witness draw a picture to describe something and then mark it and admit it into the record.
We're not going to do that. Okay. To me, that's really kind of a distinction without a difference. If you have an exhibit there that's may have been admitted, or it hasn't been admitted yet, then they put marks on it, then it gets admitted. I don't see a whole lot of difference between having a picture and someone marking on there. I mean, it's just to me, that's a sequence of events, which really doesn't make much of a difference.
So understanding the court, the concern here is that it's now become two different exhibits. The exhibit that the jury first was published to them as they saw it for the record has now been altered in a way.
And they saw that alteration, and it was happened in real time in front of them. I'm not sure what you're asking for, but I'm not going to admit a second picture of it. I mean, the jury can see the picture, they can see the markings on it relative to where the signs were in the lobby. Allegedly, that's what they want to admit. They certainly can. I think the rules change a little bit.
Yes, there was.
And were these officers also being recorded by Mr. Farley?
Yes, ma'am.
Did any of those officers request that Mr. Farley turn off his recording during the interaction between you and he?
During his state.
This is not acceptable.
We're gonna move it up.
Only patron at the office that day?
No, it was pretty packed.
Okay, and by pretty packed, about how many people would you say were there?
I'd say maybe a dozen or two.
So can you tell me a little bit about what led up to that incident based on your recollection?
Well, the incident, from what I remember, kind of happened out in that corridor I described, not in the DSHS office proper, but like the corridor, because I was sitting on my phone, almost directly looking at the door that leads from the corridor. So I did not see the two people come in. I noticed because I stopped and I looked up because I heard a scuffle. And then I was sitting there and then I watched what happened kind of in amazement because it was at the frickin' DSHS office. Who comes into there to do anything other than to speak to them and then leave?
You said you heard a scuffle. Based on your understanding, did you get anything about what the topic of conversation might have been?
Yes, clearly. Do not record. The security guard was telling the assailant, you do not record in here, do not take pictures of these people.
Okay, just a second. I'm going to overrule the objection and you can continue.
Oh, sorry.
So good. If you need to re-ask your question and have him restart.
Just again, what the content of that conversation was, the topic.
The topic from the beginning to the end was the security guard telling him to not record the people in there. He does not need his phone. That was the gist, and then it led into an altercation and some physical contact.
So you said there were two individuals speaking. One was the security guard. Is the other individual that was speaking to the security guard present in this courtroom?
I think it's him, but
would you be able to identify him with an article of clothing that he's wearing currently?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Just what, like an article of clothing
that
he's wearing currently in
No.
this courtroom.
The gray shirt.
And Your Honor, let the record reflect.
I can't pick him out of the four freaking people in the courtroom.
That the witness is pointing
This is
to
a
Mr.
nightmare.
Jeremiah Farley.
It will.
I didn't know his name, so.
You said that other patrons were in the waiting area. Were they in the waiting area while this incident occurred?
Yes. Where the incident occurred, it was kind of in the corner of the check-in counter and the door that leads to the corridor, where they were here. We were all over here. And in the seating area proper where you actually sit down.
Okay.
So it didn't happen in the group of people. It was kind of isolated because it skirted. When it came into our area, they were right inside the door. And then it kind
of... Were any of these patrons speaking with DSHS personnel to your observation?
Not in the beginning. When after the assault occurred and it kind of settled down a bit, then the gentleman was talking to DSHS and I wasn't really listening because everybody there was getting ready to take him down. because he assaulted the security officer, if my recollection is correct, 3 times. And we did not think, the whole group, the mob mentality was, this is not acceptable.
Did anyone else in the office, any of the other patrons, appear to have recording devices out?
No, we all had phones out, but nobody was recording to my knowledge, because we were all looking at our phones, where the individual's phone, he was recording. And the security guard did say a couple times, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure, but you cannot record these people. Don't record them. You cannot record these people.
Had Mr. Farley asked you for permission to be recorded?
No.
Did Mr. Farley say anything to the security guard as they entered the waiting room area of the
Don't
office?
touch me. You can't touch my phone. I can do this. I can do what I want. Just very combative, very upset, very like, I'm going to challenge the system, but it's a DSHS office. What's the point?
Did you observe any recording devices in Mr. Farley's control at the time?
If you include his cell phone, yes, but an actual like device, like a camcorder, no. His cell phone was up and clearly looked like what was recording, not, perusing the internet or looking at cats on it.
And where was this recording device located? You said he was holding it.
He was holding his phone.
Okay.
And his phone, he was holding it out of the reach of the security guard. And the security guard said a couple times, you can't record. And then he would also say, you can't record the people. So I do remember that slight distinction.
One moment, Your Honor. Based on your observations, what was the security guard's demeanor when speaking with Mr. Farley?
Calm, but a slightly elevated. He was very vocal, but he wasn't yelling. He wasn't threatening.
And kind of why would you say that? Kind of paint a little picture here. Maybe what was his facial expression at the time?
Neutral, but strained. I mean, they were physically, but they weren't necessarily like fighting at that moment. It was a lot of like trying to grab the phone, like a scuffle without actually fighting.
And what was his tone of voice at the time?
The security guard?
The security guard.
Again, very neutral, kind of flat, very like trained. Like he's, doing his training. He's like, when you deal with somebody who is aggressive or whatever, you talk calmly, you talk directly, you talk firmly. Like, he wasn't yelling or screaming or being irrational, but he also wasn't being passive. He was very clear in the fact that what the assailant was doing was not okay.
And prior to the incident, immediately prior, what was Mr. Farley's demeanor based on your observations?
After the incident and the police were there,
excuse me, I meant prior to the incident, as he was entering the waiting area.
From what I heard, my head was not up as they actually entered. So I cannot say, but the conversation had started out in the corridor. And then, like I said, the security guard was close to him and telling him not to record. And like I said, they didn't walk in, they actually kind of like walked in and skirted around the perimeter. And I would say Mr. Farley was defiant and I can do what I want was the impression I got. Not saying that's absolutely truth, but the security guard, kept telling him, you can't do this. And he was like, I can do what I want. It's a state building, all of this. And he was very agitated.
And why would you say he appeared to be agitated? What did you observe?
The way he was talking to the security guard, the way he was looking around, the way he was stating his rights, I can do what stuff like that. He wasn't very calm in talking to the security guard. He wasn't saying, I would like to record for a reason. He was like, I can record because I can. I have that right, was the impression I was getting.
And after receiving requests to discontinue recording, did it appear that he obliged and discontinued recording?
No, that's what led to the physical violence. The security guard was trying to grab the phone, which I'm not saying is right or wrong. Mr. Farley hit them once and then hit him again in the face. And then if I remember correctly, the scuffle ended up kind of toward the other side as it scuffled around. And I think he hit him again, and then he threatened that he can hit him. He was going to hit him again. He was screaming, yelling at the DSHS people because they came out. They were trying to talk him down. All of us in the waiting room were getting mob mentality because we're like, the security guard's just trying to do his damn job, and this guy comes in here and starts causing this big issue. And we were all just shocked. I mean, we were all there doing our thing. You know, it's the DSHS office. It sucks no matter what. And then for somebody to come in and assault a security guard,
I like it.
Just seems, it just felt surreal. That's why some of the memories I have aren't exactly super clear, because that doesn't happen. You know, you're not used to sitting in the welfare office and having an assault. This isn't LA, you know, it's Olympia.
From your perspective, you said the security guard reached towards the phone?
Yes.
From your perspective, did the security guard appear to make contact with Mr. Farley's person?
Indirectly, he wasn't hitting him. He wasn't trying to grab him. He was kind of using his body to move him, but he did grab or go for the phone a few times. And Mr. Farley then stated loudly, "Don't touch my phone." And if I remember correctly, that's what initiated the physical contact, that the security guard was trying to get the phone, and Mr. Farley responded with physical violence.
And you said Mr. Farley responded with physical violence. Do you want to go into a little more detail about that?
He, as close as he and the security guard were, and the security guard was trying to grab his phone, he hit him in the face.
Was it just once?
Twice.
And was that the end of the physical contact?
No, if I remember correctly, I think there was more physical contact.
Well, that's a battery, and this guy's a credible witness. Although, based on what I'm seeing, I haven't seen the verdict. This is a thin case, but if you're to believe this guy, that's an assault and battery. The end. The end.
It kind of escalated a bit because, you know, everybody was getting riled up. The staff was getting riled up. The people were getting riled up. And then if I remember correctly, he went for the phone again when they were over in the other area. But like I said, it's all kind of weird because it's surreal. It's the welfare office.
And I don't think self-defense works here. Although we had a fight about that prior. I skipped some of it because it was getting boring. But we had a fight about that prior. But you don't have to hit the guy in the face here. That's excessive force in a self-defense context. So I don't see how you get around it. But this any verdict wouldn't surprise me here.
How hard would you say Mr. Farley struck Mr. Rain, or the security guard in this case?
For my guesstimation, not knowing the gentleman, seeing it.
Well, there you go. And if you don't find this witness credible, then it doesn't make the case. Absolutely.
His build and stuff, I would guess he probably hit him at 50% power. It wasn't something that knocked the guard out, but it hurt him.
How did the security guard respond to Mr. Farley striking him?
He actually stayed really calm, telling him, can't do that. Like, he didn't yell or scream. The security guard never went crazy. He never broke training or protocol, you know, which I remember was pretty impressive considering what happened.
How did Mr. Farley react after his physical contact with the security guard?
He was still very vocal. Still, I can do what I want. You tried to touch me. You tried to take my stuff. I can hit you. He got into yelling matches with other patrons at the DSH, just like yelling matches, like this one heavyset woman and him just were yelling at each other, and just the whole scene was just out of a movie. Like I said, that's it. Everything was so crazy.
You said he continued yelling. What did he say?
I can do what I want. Shut your mouth. He used, you know, derogatory terms. He was just, to me, from what I could see, he had no other business there other than to go in and cause a problem. Because it started outside the DSHS office.
It's a good question.
Because they came in. So I don't know what happened out there at all. completely will admit that, but it started out there because it ended up in the office proper. They came in, so I'm guessing they told him out there, don't record, because that's what the scuffle was as it came into the office. So, I mean, yeah, sorry. It just, like I said, it's the DSHS office. You don't expect, a brawl to occur, and you don't expect somebody to go in there and, like, after they have been violent, they still threaten the people.
After this physical altercation occurred, did Mr. Farley appear to discontinue recording?
Not really, because he eventually got a DSHS person finally talk to him and kind of calm the situation down, try to figure out, why are you here? What are you doing? I didn't hear that. I wasn't paying attention. Me and the other people were talking because we were all in awe. Like, did this really happen? Like, because like I said,
I think so.
He was agitated. He was upset.
He also has no bias that I can see. I don't see why he cares about the outcome of this, and therefore he's just sort of saying, this is what I observed. He also didn't lean for the state either. He said, the security guards, trying to grab the phone. He starts with that. So he doesn't care the way the facts go. He seems to just be spilling his observations.
And I don't know why. Sure, the security guard was annoying him, but if somebody told me, hey, this is a DSHS office, you can't record people. Okay, no problem. Done.
And it appeared that while he was continuing to talk to the DSHS person after the incident, that he was continuing to record.
I believe so, but I don't want to say 100% sure.
Just
but
based
yes.
off your observations.
If I remember correctly, yes.
And how did you personally react to Mr. Farley striking the security guard?
It kind of triggered me because I have myself been a victim of domestic violence. That's one of the reasons why I've been saying, what I remember, because it was a bit traumatic, like I said, to have somebody come in and beat up a security guard at the welfare office. Really? Find a hobby.
Did others in the office react to the confrontation? You said that there was some
probably
others
about 4 or 5 of the DSHS office people did come out, and they started telling him, what are you doing? What's up? Why are you here? That about the same time that the personnel was talking to him, the mob mentality had already been created, and a couple people were kind of headed toward him. And then a couple people were yelling at him, like, what's your problem? Why are you here hitting somebody like this? Like,
you talk about this kind of mob mentality as a reaction to this incident of the patrons.
oh yeah, we were like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this? What's your problem? You want to hit somebody real? A couple gentlemen, burlier, taller people, vaguely like there. It was about 4 or 5 of us. I was just like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with you?
So based off of that, what is your impression of the tone of the room after the incident occurred, immediately afterwards?
After the incident settled down and people were calmed down, it was, I'd say, shock, honestly. Just like I keep saying, what the hell? It's the DSHS office. Why did you come in here? And then Mr. Farley got upset, or seemed shocked that the mob was getting ready to take care of him. And when I mean that, restrain him, not physically hurt him. You don't need to be causing any more pain to anybody.
So you went into a little bit of detail about this, but what occurred after Mr. Farley struck the security guard?
That's after the physical violence. That's what turned everything up. As soon as because we were all kind of looking at the scuffle, but as soon as he got hit, when Mr. Farley hit the security guard, that is when the mob mentality almost instantly started, and people were saying, what the hell's wrong with you? You need to stop. And then that's when DSHS, the personnel, started kind of coming out, and they were even shocked and kind of staying back a little bit, I think, for their own safety.
So I think you might have gone into a little bit of detail on this, but did anyone provide aid to the security guard at that point or intervene?
The I believe a DSHS person came out and kind of was a buffer, and talked him down, or two DSHS people.
And excuse me, this is to the security guards.
Yeah,
Okay.
the two
Okay.
DSHS people that came out were talking to him, trying to figure out what he's doing, why he's doing it, getting him calmed down. They were trying to de-escalate the situation. They were trying, then others were kind of calming down the mob mentality, because we were like, hey, what's wrong? And then there was 4 or 5 of us who specifically went to the police officer and said, hey, we would like to, give you our recollection, our information, because we all agreed, this was unacceptable. This isn't the Wild West.
He says mob mentality like it's a bad thing, but I agree with the mob here in this circumstance.
Did anyone provide aid to Mr. Farley?
No, but we were getting ready to. After the first hit, that's, like I said, that's what riled up the crowd. Everybody there just trying to wait and get their time to speak with the DSHS people. Once he did, people started actually like getting out of their chairs and walking toward him. I remember a taller gentleman over on the left, because I was sitting here looking this way. He started to yell at him and telling him,
They started a dance routine choreographed by the prosecutor, actually.
what type of man are you that you come in and beat up I'm sorry, the security guard's a nice guy, but he's not very big. You could push him over with a hard breeze. And that's kind of what went on a lot back and forth, was the what's wrong with you, and the crowd was.
Oh, the security guard comes on here and says, I've had 4 strokes this year and I'm deaf. It's not funny, but that's government security guard for you right there.
To a point unnecessarily riled up, like they were still kind of like making comments about him and
does
masculinity and all.
That does make this goat boy pretty disgusting.
All of that. Because again, I think everybody afterward with the staff and the people in the office were shocked. Like I said, it wasn't just a scuffle or even a, hey, you can't have your phone, and then, whatever. And then, that it escalated into physical violence where it doesn't seem like it needed to. In my opinion, I don't think the security guard should have grabbed the phone, but he shouldn't have had his phone. Had he not had his phone, like he asked, none of this would have happened. If somebody would have said, we can't have you recording these people, because I do remember the security guard said people, not just the office, but you can't record these people. And that's when because as soon as they came in, that's when it seemed to escalate, because the security guard was trying to get his phone from him, and reaching for the phone is what the guy hit him.
And that at that time, when that conversation was happening, there were people present in the office.
Oh, yeah. And we were all, like I said, most of us were on our phones. We were on our phones, and then almost all of us, you could tell, heard something, and we all kind of looked up collectively, like, what's going on? And then we were kind of there sitting there, I think, watching it in amazement. And then when Mr. Farley struck the security guard, that's when I stood up, other people stood up. Like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? DSHS staff was notified. They came out. I believe so. Another gentleman came out from the corridor area. I don't know how else to say it. It was just insane. It's a welfare office. I can't get over the fact it's a welfare office. We go in, we do our thing, we leave. There should be no physical violence. There's no reason to record people in the welfare office. This whole thing didn't have to happen, is how I see it at all.
And based off your perception of what happened immediately following the incident, you call it this mob mentality. None of the patrons that were there visiting went up to Mr. Farley to console him or to
be on his side.
I guess for lack of a better term, yes.
No. I was shocked that the DSHS people were actually talking to him. There was 4 of us yelling that call the cops. This dude needs to take his ass to jail. He assaulted a person in DSHS office for no reason. Was all of our attitude. We were all pissed, because it slowed down being in the DSHS office even longer. So we were there, an extra probably 45 minutes because, you know, the staff had to stop and deal with this incident that never should have been an incident to begin with.
Well, thank you for your time. City has no further questions.
Ms. Rowe, you may cross-examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr.
Hello.
Kirkland.
Oh, good
Yes.
Lord.
You indicated that
I'll do a little bit of this, but I might have to skip it.
at the initial questioning by the city of Tumwater, excuse me, they asked you to describe the layout of the office. Have you personally seen any notices regarding any recording?
No. That was brought up and asked, and as I said to the police officer then, I'll say it now, no, there was no signs that I saw in the main office. There may have been one in the corridor, but I do not know, so I can say no, I did not see one. Am I allowed to follow up with that statement?
Sure, she's going to ask the questions, you
Okay.
answer them, and then if they have follow-up questions, they can ask them.
Okay.
And you indicated also that the incident happened in the corridor before both the security guard and Mr. Farley were even inside the office. Is that correct?
Yes, but I do not know what happened in that corridor. All I know is that the reason I say that I do know what happened in the corridor is because they were talking and yelling and next to each other in an uncomfortable position as they were coming in the door.
Describe what you mean by next to each other in an uncomfortable position.
The security guard was trying to stop him from coming in. That's why they skirted around the perimeter, as I was describing earlier, is because the security guard, as I said, from what little training I've had, was doing what he was trained. He was trying to keep Mr. Farley from everybody else. He was trying to block him from recording. And that's why I say I don't know what happened in the corridor, but something did, because it's proceeded into the office proper where we were.
Understood. Understood. Do you personally know whether this security guard had the right to try to confiscate Mr. Farley's phone?
No, I do not.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for conclusion. A legal conclusion.
Your Honor, I would argue that this
Well,
witness
the question's been answered negatively, and
Okay.
so well, you could just move on and ask.
Strike
the
that
next question.
objection, Your Honor.
did you, during the incident, see or witness any DSHS employee coming over to Mr. Farley and advising him that he was not allowed to record?
I do not remember them saying that, but when the DSHS people were talking to Mr. Farley after the physical altercation, I wasn't really paying attention to what they were saying.
Okay, I wanted to know whether you heard, as well as the other patrons in the lobby, may have heard any DSHS employee advise Mr. Farley that he was not to record.
No, but I wasn't paying attention at that time either.
Understood. And you indicated that everybody in the lobby, well, most folks in the lobby, to your understanding, were all on their phones.
Yeah, most of the people that were single or, they're by themselves were on the phones, like myself, or some of them had kids. So most of us were preoccupied. We weren't staring at the corridor door. Santa
you-
Claus could have walked in and we wouldn't have noticed till we lifted our heads up.
Understood. Did you notice anyone begin to record when the incident and the altercation happened?
Like other people,
Yes.
I did not see that.
Are you aware that there might be cameras in public spaces such as that?
I would assume there should or would be cameras all over it being a DSHS office. You know, a state building.
And what would those cameras be doing? Would they be recording?
My
Speculation.
my
Objection, Your Honor,
assumption.
this-
Sustained.
Relevance.
Do you personally have any knowledge as to whether Mr. Farley actually had business there? Yes or no?
No.
During the melee, as you seem to testify to, did any of the patrons in the office object to being recorded?
A few people were upset once they realized that's what the security guard was doing to
Did
prevent the
anyone
recording.
express a objection
Yes.
to being recorded?
Yes.
And who was that?
Other people, I did not get their names. We did not discuss it extensively, but like the heavier set woman, I remember she was a very large woman and she was yelling and screaming at Mr. Farley and he was yelling and
Heavy
screaming
bride.
back.
So what the yelling and screaming, was it a yelling and screaming because
Love
you
it.
invaded my privacy? Or
You're
was it yell?
recording
Hold
and
on,
you
if you wouldn't
shouldn't.
mind.
Sorry.
Okay, hang on just a minute. Let her finish her
Sorry.
question, and then when she's finished her question, you can answer. And because when two people are talking, no one can understand either one
Yeah,
of them.
sorry.
So Ms. Rowe, you can repeat your question, and then Mr. Kirkley, you can answer.
Was the yelling and screaming? I believe it was your testimony that the yelling and screaming was regarding what patrons believed to be a physical altercation between the two. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I believe you indicated that things that you overheard as the incident was coming from the hallway into the actual office itself was the security guard was saying you cannot record these people and without asking their permissions. Is that correct?
You cannot record these people and you cannot record. He may have said permission, but I don't remember it. But I do remember him stating you cannot record these people. Like that was the main gist. He was once.
Now, I understand.
Yeah.
Were you privy to the recording that was being taken in real time?
No.
Were you privy to any screenshots that showed Mr. Farley recording any individuals? Did you see any recording that shows that Mr. Farley was recording people or these
Objection.
people?
Objection, Your Honor, relevant.
So I'm going to sustain the objection, and then you can ask your next question.
Now, you indicated that during the incident, you heard Mr. Farley saying over and over, "Don't touch me, don't touch my phone."
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
And I believe you indicated that he was holding his cell phone, and that's what it appeared to be was recording. correct?
Well, very obviously, yes, because it was, I'll use my phone he was like doing this. He wasn't doing this. He wasn't even doing this. It was this. And when the security guard was trying to grab it, he had it up here. So yes, I
Understood.
can say with,
Understood. Absolutely understood. And I believe it was your testimony that Mr. Farley was holding his phone out of the reach of the security guard,
yes,
and the security guard was
Yes, it
going
was.
towards him, trying to grab his phone.
yes,
I believe you also testified that the security guard was in very close proximity to Mr. Farley in order to try to ascertain or to confiscate the phone. Is that
and
correct?
contain him, yes.
Pardon?
And contain him. He was trying to keep him away from us. That was what we all got the impression was the security guard was trying to keep him from recording us and kind of keep it separated. That's why they didn't just casually walk into the office talking like normal people in a welfare office talk.
Understood. And because of the tenure of the incident as it was going on, is it safe to assume
Tenure.
that the security guard, in fact, I believe, was basically invading Mr. Farley's personal bubble? Yes or no?
Yes. But isn't that his job? Okay, just, sorry.
Answer.
And I believe it was your testimony
Someone
that
sends it to me.
in fact, I believe it was your characterization or your testimony that
I'm not exactly a goat boy viewer.
you didn't really know if the security guard should have been trying to get grabbed for his phone or not.
Exactly. I still agree with that.
Thank you. And I
Yeah.
believe you also testified that Mr.
Yeah.
Farley seemed agitated and was stating his rights. Is that correct?
I would say yelling and screaming them more than stating them.
And did you witness the security guard make contact with Mr. Farley?
His body? Never.
Did the security guard make contact with Mr. Farley's?
Object, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
She can, I'm going to overrule objection for now until I hear the entire question. Ms. Rowe?
The security guard was reaching to grab Mr. Farley's phone,
Yes. The whole time.
and Mr. Farley's phone was in his hand,
Yes.
and the
PNW
security guard and
transparency?
Mr. Farley were in close proximity to each other.
Yes.
All right. I'm not a viewer of PNW transparency either, as it turns out. I don't know either one of them, but I like Goat Boy just because I can do
No.
this.
You described the altercation
It's
that
got more
you
flav.
witnessed. Did Mr. Farley, did you see Mr. Farley clench his hand in a fist?
If I remember correctly, yeah, he was very agitated. He wasn't in there calmly. He was vocal, yelling.
Did you see him
And
clench
his fist?
his fist?
When he hit the dude, yeah.
What arm did he use?
I believe it was his right arm, but again,
So what arm was the camera in?
his left and the right. It was being switched between because the card was going after it.
And I believe your testimony was the security guard went for Mr. Farley's phone once and twice, and then actually went for the phone the third time. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was something like that, very vocal, not a random trying to just grab the phone, telling him you do not need to record in here. You cannot record in here, going for the phone, not just going for the phone unexpectedly out of the blue.
Do you have any personal knowledge whether or not a security guard's duty is to confiscate other person's personal property? Yes or no?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
What you witnessed was the security guard going for Mr. Farley's personal property. Is that correct?
Yes.
Only because he can't. Because they had a motion eliminate about it.
And I believe your testimony was that throughout the incident, the security guard stayed calm, correct?
Calm-ish. I mean, he was dealing with somebody who was trying to he was as calm as I think anybody could be. He was way calmer than I would have been at that point.
Understood. Thank you.
He was calmish.
And I believe you testified that from your opinion, the security guard never broke training protocol. What do you mean by that?
He was calm. He didn't yell or scream at the dude. He was loud but vocal, not yelling. He was very clear, telling the assailant what he needs to do is you cannot record these people in here.
But you don't know if his training protocol allows him to confiscate personal property. Yes
I
or
have no idea what their training protocol is.
Thank you. And I believe you indicated that you heard Mr. Farley basically yelling regarding being touched by the security guard and don't take my stuff.
You do it again, I'll hit you again. I could do that.
Did you hear him say, stop touching him and he can't take his stuff?
Not exactly as you stated it, no.
How did he state?
Don't touch my stuff, back off. I can do what I want. You have no rights. I can come in and be an asshole to everybody.
He said, I can come in and be an asshole to everybody?
No, but that was what we all assumed.
But that's not the words you heard.
No.
And I believe that you indicated that it was your impression that Mr. Farley had no other business there but to cause problems. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yes or no?
Okay, so hang on just a second. So ask your question again. I thought there was an objection.
There was, Your Honor.
Okay, so please restate your question just for the purpose of the record. Because again,
I believe you testified that it is your impression that Mr. Farley, and I believe I would quote, had no other business there but to cause problems. Is that correct?
Okay, don't answer that question. Is there an objection to that question?
There is, Your Honor.
Okay.
And the basis is that this is asked and answered. Many of these questions have already been answered that have repeatedly been asked by Ms. Rowe.
And I'm going to sustain the objection, partly based on your question. I think you asked if that was his testimony. And so he's already testified to that. So it is asked and answered. So I'll sustain the objection.
And I believe you testified that you believed that employees of DSHS came out. Is that correct?
Your
There
Honor,
were other employees from DSHS, of DSHS, that were trying to de-escalate the situation?
objection, Your Honor, same basis.
I'll overrule this objection. You can answer that question. If you remember it, I can have her repeat it if you wish.
Yeah, no, DSHS personnel did come out. 2 of them came out, and then more people came out from the offices, but they were behind the check-in area. Because he never checked in. So why was he there if you didn't hit the button like you're supposed to? You get a thing. You go to the desk. He never did that. Everybody who goes
Is
to
there, are people, did it appear that Mr. Farley was coming into the DSHS office?
Well, he didn't appear to come into the office. He was there.
And as part of the administrative personnel that came out to de-escalate the situation, did any of that personnel inform Mr. Farley that he could not record?
Objection, Your Honor. The witness has already said to Ms. Rowe that he did not hear any of the conversations that were had between the agent and Mr. Farley.
I'll overrule. You can answer the question.
I don't remember. I'm sure it was discussed because that's the whole reason the incident occurred.
But you don't remember hearing that?
No.
And during the conversation that the administrative personnel had with Mr. Farley, was he continuing to record that communication? Yes or no?
No.
Did he appear to be recording during the conversation with the administrator?
I was not paying attention very much to them. I was talking to the other patrons in
Understood.
there.
Okay. She's made her points. I'm going to move ahead.
And you enter, I would be objecting to it as.
And maybe I'm misremembering about signage and posting and whether he was allowed to do that and whether it was legal for a person to record in public buildings and whether someone knew about that. And so I think the concern of the state is that that's going to be the defense. And you don't have to tell me what your defense is. And I think
that's the judge.
That's
what I thought.
The reason the state's proposing this instruction is just.
So my line of questioning regarding
the testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
All right, here we go. Here's the defendant.
Be seated. Mr. Fortunato, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Would you mind stating your name for the record?
Randy Rainey.
And could you spell that for us?
Last name Rainey, Raney.
Thank you. Where do you live, Mr. Rainey?
No, it's not
Where
the
do you
defendant.
live?
The defendant's at the defense table.
And what is your occupation?
I am a security officer.
And who do you work for as a security officer?
Pierce County Security.
Okay. How long have you worked as a security guard for Pierce County Security?
About 12 years.
What is your primary responsibility as a security guard?
To hold security in the area itself. and protect the
Security.
personnel that are there.
How important are facility rules in this job
It's
responsibility?
very important. Very important.
How often have you worked at the DSHS location in Tumwater?
I've worked there almost 3 years.
Do you remember if you were working on the afternoon of July 20th, 2023?
Yes, I was.
And where is that DSHS located?
6860. What was it? Southwest.
Is that in the
It's-
city of Tumwater?
It's Boulevard. It's
Okay.
Boulevard Southwest.
Okay, and that's in the city of Tumwater?
Yes,
And that's in Thurston County?
yes,
And that's in the state of Washington?
yes, it is.
What hours is the DSHS office located or open rather?
From 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 in the evening.
What do people come to the DSHS office for?
They come for services for food and medical services, along with monies also for the family food.
Could you briefly describe kind of the layout of the DSHS office?
It's rectangular office. The lobby is itself. We see approximately 30 people in there.
Okay.
We do have a TV on for the children to watch also if they're in there, keeps them quiet. We have 2 personnel that are called navigators. When the people check in, they check in with them. And during the day, the office itself in the back and also on the side of the lobby, that's where they hold interviews at for the food substance, whatever.
Is recording allowed in the DSHS office?
No, it isn't.
And why is that?
It's private office in the office itself. The lobby though, they can video.
And by lobby, do you mean the lobby of, or what do you mean by in the lobby they can record?
Where all the people are sitting at waiting to be seen.
That recording is allowed in that area?
Yes.
Where specifically is recording not allowed?
And on the side of the lobby, there's a barrier, a small partition wall. It has signs on it saying no recording, no audio or video recording. That's where they do the interviews at.
And how are patrons made aware of this rule?
There's signs up.
If-
For that.
Of this rule, yeah.
that rule, you can talk to the personnel in there, in the office itself. It has the rule. It's not actually posted on the outside, but there are rules for your behavior while in the DSHS.
And you said there are signs that say that recording is prohibited in
Yes,
this
that
location?
one area, yes,
And if you were to see this sign, would you be able to recognize it?
yes.
Your Honor, I'm showing defense what's been marked as a State's Exhibit 1. Your Honor, permission to approach the witness?
You may.
Let the record reflect that I am showing the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit 1 for identification purposes. Mr. Rainey, do you recognize this photo or
Yes.
what's within this photo?
It's right behind my desk at the in the lobby.
It's right behind your desk in the lobby.
Yes.
Is it fair and accurate depiction of what the DSHS office looks like on July 20th, 2023?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to publish Exhibit 1.
Any objection? Are you asking to admit it?
Yes, yes.
Any
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, you may publish.
May I
it.
approach?
You may.
And you said, Mr. Rainey, where is this sign located? within the
One's
DSHS office?
right behind my desk, which is that one there. There's also another one on the bookshelf to the left of that. And down on the partition further down is on the a pillar, square pillar up there. It's on that and on the partition wall also.
And you said that this rule is in place in the office,
Yes.
it's specifically with certain areas within the office. There is no audio or video recording. Could you explain why this rule is in place?
For privacy,
For privacy of who exactly?
the client and the worker itself.
Mm-hmm.
They interact with information back and forth to prepare for themselves for the benefits and stuff.
Thank you. Mr. Rainey, was everyone following this rule on July 20th, 2023?
Yes,
Everybody was
Yes.
following that rule?
yes.
Did anyone enter the facility with a video recording device that day?
Yes, they did.
Someone did. Is that person in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Would you be able to point them out by describing an article of clothing that they're wearing?
They got the boots on, heavy boots, I guess.
In your honor, may the record reflect that Mr. Rainey is pointing to Mr. Jeremiah Farley.
It will.
One moment. So Mr. Farley entered the DSHS office that day. Did he mention to you why he was there?
No,
Was he made aware of this no recording rule of the office?
not in that area where I was at with him.
Did he eventually become aware of this rule?
Yes,
Did he abide by that rule once he was made aware of it?
no.
What did he do after being advised of that rule regarding video and audio communication or recording?
Well, during that time period, the supervisor was talking to him at the time when he was in the area that wasn't supposed to be recorded. And I let the supervisor know, and
So
he
you
was talking to him.
you said he walked in and he was made aware of the rule regarding no recording.
Mhm.
What happened after that, after he had walked in and learned of that rule?
I confronted him at the doorway and told him people didn't want to be recorded here. And also that I asked him if he could leave the building, and he didn't say nothing, and that's when he hit me.
Did he say that he had an appointment that day?
No,
Was his recording device still running?
I think it was, yeah. I wasn't recording. No, I wasn't watching the recording, but he had it mounted on to where he could have it in his hand
Where did this interaction take place within the office?
at one of the doors from the main lobby into the CSO lobby itself.
And as you entered into that lobby itself, was this where the signs were located regarding?
It's off to the side, yes.
Mhm. Okay. And you had already, or Mr. Farley was already aware of the rule regarding recording in that area?
As far as I know, yes, he was.
Okay. Were other individuals present within that area at that time?
There was a lot of people in the lobby. The lobby was full.
And by that, about how many, if you had to guess?
35 to 40. It was actually over full. Yeah, a lot of people standing.
Did any of those individuals appear to be recording within the office?
Not that I know of.
So you said he struck you. Would you mind going into a little bit of detail about what that involved?
Okay. As I was confronting him at the door and telling him, if he could leave the building, and that's when he struck me on the left cheek down toward the lip, and I stumbled back and I let him in. And that's when the the other guard had notified, did the duress call on the radio, which got a couple supervisors out and called 911.
So you must have been pretty close to him if he was
Yes.
able to strike you.
Yes,
What
I
were
was.
you doing that close to him?
I was talking to him in a quiet manner.
Did he still have the recording device out at that
Yes,
time?
he did.
And did you have any reaction to that recording device being out and present?
Well, I went to block the view of the camera itself. That's when he struck me.
Was there only one recording device?
I think there was only one. I don't know. He may have had a chest one on. I don't know if it was running or not.
Do you remember making contact with his person as you reached towards his device?
I know I was grabbing up toward the camera itself
And why were you doing this?
to block the view of the camera. People don't want to be videoed in that.
What was Mr. Farley's response to you reaching towards that camera?
He hit me
Where did he hit you again?
in the left cheek and the lip.
And how many times?
It hit me hard and fast, and then I stumbled back.
And you said it was fairly hard. If you had to guess or had to put it into
It
words.
wasn't really hard, but it was enough to jar me off.
Okay. Did it appear that the striking was intentional?
Yeah.
How so?
He wanted to do what he wanted to do in there. He didn't care about me.
Did he say anything at that point while he was continuing into the room and moving and eventually struck you? Was he saying at that point?
I don't know what he was saying. I stepped back, and my guard had already let the duress know, and also the 911 call. The supervisors were out there pretty fast to talk to him.
Were other patrons present at the time that he struck you?
Yes,
And what was their reactions to this?
there was a lot of commotion. The lobby was quiet until that happened, and there was a lot of commotion going on out there.
Did you remain near Mr. Farley as close as you were after he struck you?
No, I kept the distance from him.
Did anyone come to intervene in that situation afterwards?
The supervisor was talking to him.
And what did you do after that?
I just kept back a distance from him.
If you were to see a video that documented the footage of this incident, would you recognize it?
Probably.
Seems we might be experiencing some technical difficulties, but we are, the city's going to be moving to show Exhibit 2, or what's been marked as City's Exhibit 2, to the witness and to the jury.
And Ms. Rowe?
I have no objection.
Okay. And so do you need a minute? We can break for a minute if you need to set that up.
No.
I'm not the best at technology either, but I do know some people who are, so we can call those people in if we need to.
And Your Honor, it appears that we are ready to go with this recording.
Actually, if you would hardly refrain from doing that because we have privacy.
Is it a public lobby?
No, it's not.
It's not a public
It's
lobby.
not a private lobby, okay?
It's
No,
not.
this is the guys.
Calm down. Step back. We get really close to me.
I'll take a picture while you're in here.
I'm going to gather content for a story.
What's that in the case for?
Okay, I'm not going to talk here.
This is the business.
Put your hands on me. wish me what they went through. You know what? The fucking went to me, I said. So, look, Washington is a stone bound state. I have every right to defend myself and confront it. I am sure you, didn't I?
Well, so do I.
How would you know? You never even asked me. I did. Never even stopped anything. You're supposed to get out of my way. See? Any way of driving which one's your fucking ass. Get away from me. You tell me I will defend myself if you get in my face. Put his hands on my face.
We're asked to leave. Go.
Really? Who are you?
You were asked to leave. Leave the building.
Leave the building now. Leave the building. I have business to conduct. Step in, Wesley. Step in. Your job is over there. Your job is to observe and reflect. Listen, say something you can do. What you said. You see this? That.
Can't do it back here, sir.
It's a public lobby. It's a public lobby. Okay. I'm not gonna raise my voice anymore, so you can tell this early. I'm very polite. I mean, my own business. I'm not business. Public lobby.
So, sir.
Public lobby. I defended myself and he grabbed me. You are security guard. I'm a cop. Back up. Stop.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Rowe, you may cross-examine.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, here we go.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rainey. Thank you for being here this afternoon. So, Mr. Rainey, I want to talk a little bit about your role as a security guard. You indicated that you have been a security guard with Pierce County Security for about 12 years. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you still employed by them?
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated that you worked at DSHS for about 3 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you still work there?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're still doing security duties for the
Yes.
DSHS office?
Yes.
And what's your schedule there?
I work there 4 days a week.
And what's your schedule? What are your hours?
7:30 to 5:30, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday is from 8 o'clock to 5:30.
And who is your direct supervisor?
My direct supervisor is Ron Hall.
As Defense Exhibit 1, 2, and 3. Do you recognize these pictures?
Yes, I do.
And can you identify these pictures?
Yes, this is the front entrance to where the guard's at in the CSO lobby. This is the retaining wall between the lobby itself and the interview area.
The half wall right there?
Yes,
And what is this?
this is the front entrance, or the inside entrance from the main lobby itself into the CSO office.
Okay. Now, where did you have first contact with Mr. Farley?
In the main lobby,
And what entrance did he enter?
the front of the building.
So
You
he
gotta
entered
go through
in,
those doors into the main lobby itself.
so he entered into the entrance that's connected to the long hallway.
Yeah,
And where did you first have contact with Mr. Farley?
In the main lobby.
And where would you say the scuffling incident between the two of you occurred?
At the door from the main entrance, well, main lobby into the CSO lobby.
So basically in the doorway.
Yeah.
Now, when asked the direct question from Mr. Fortunato, he asked whether or not recording was allowed. Is that correct?
I asked?
Mr.
No.
Fortunato asked you, what was recording allowed in the building? And I believe it was your response that there's no recording in the private offices, but in the lobby, you can video.
That's it. Yes.
And then after the state reiterated that question, I believe you testified that recording is allowed in the lobby. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did Mr. Farley make it to the lobby
Yes, he did.
before he was confronted by you?
No.
So you confronted him basically in the threshold doorway
Yes,
before
I
he
did.
entered the lobby.
Yes, I did.
At any time, did you tell Mr. Farley what areas of the inside office lobby he was allowed to film it? Yes or no?
No, I didn't. At that time.
So he never had a chance to even get to the lobby before the incident between you and he occurred. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Can you say, I'm deaf in this side and 6%.
Okay,
Can you
I'll
say it
talk.
again? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
So Mr. Farley had not even made his way into the lobby,
The main lobby or the CSO lobby?
the CSO lobby.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you ever specify to Mr. Farley that he could video in the main lobby, but not behind that half wall barrier? Did you
That
ever
subject didn't come
notify?
up.
Pardon?
That subject didn't come up. He didn't ask me a
Did you
question.
notify him? Yes
I
or no?
didn't. I didn't at that time, no.
But that could have been information that you could have shared with him, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
That could have been information that you could have shared with him. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you didn't. Is that correct?
Not at that time. No, I didn't. Can I? Okay,
If you
thank
would,
you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And you indicated in regards to the signage that the sign is posted in one area, which is behind the security desk. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, is the security desk close to the entrance that Mr. Farley entered in?
No, he entered the inner portion of the main lobby itself. He entered in that area, which goes up to the second, third, and fourth floor. That normally before was only an exit. It wasn't an entrance. They've changed it to the outside of the building, which is the entrance.
So the security desk,
Yes,
where one of the signs was posted,
behind it.
in
Yes.
fact, the sign that was shown in the state's exhibit, that sign was posted basically across the room from where Mr. Farley entered. Is
Is
that
at the
correct?
other end of the building, at the other end of the lobby. Yes.
At the other end of the lobby.
Mhm.
You also indicated that there were some signs that were also posted on that half retaining or dividing wall. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes,
Showing you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 2. Is that half retaining wall the wall that you're referring to?
yes, it is.
And that retaining wall or that dividing wall is dividing which portions of the office?
The lobby itself and the interview area.
So Mr. Farley could legally video record the lobby area.
Yes.
Did you allow him to do so?
At that time, no, once he shoved me, that was it. I asked him to leave the building.
I'm showing you also, could you point out the signage on the retaining wall?
Here, here, and here.
And those, looks like 2 of those
One on
have
each end.
been marked on this exhibit. Is that
That's one
correct?
right there.
Okay, so 2 of them are marked and 1 is not, and 1 was located on the pillar basically
Yes.
connected to that half retaining wall.
And right here beside my desk.
But Mr. Farley hadn't even made it.
No.
Now I'd like to go back to your duties as a security officer. When it comes to situations where a patron does not obey your command, what are you how are you allowed to proceed in those circumstances?
Objection, Your
Leave the
Honor.
building.
Objection, Your Honor.
Hang on, just stop. Mr. Fortunato,
This is beyond the scope of the direct examination. It also calls for speculation, Your Honor.
this is cross-examination. I'm going to allow again, could you repeat the question? Ms. Rowe, what was your question?
I'm not even remembering it myself.
Okay, well, why don't you ask a question then, and then
Yes,
we'll go
yes.
from there.
Oh, I do remember. When you give an order and somebody does not obey your order, what are the procedures that you, in your security officer duties, what are the procedures? How do you proceed in that scenario?
I can ask them to leave the building.
Hang on just a second. Mr. Fortunato, I'm going to allow him to answer that question. Okay, go ahead.
I can ask them to leave the building and or get my supervisor up there to talk to them, explain what's happening.
Is it part of your duties to confiscate another person's personal property?
No,
Did you not inform Mr. Farley of the areas that were public spaces where he was allowed to video record?
didn't come up at the time.
Is it one of your duties as a security guard to inform patrons of that information?
There's signage up.
Did Mr. Farley have the opportunity to see the signage before the incident occurred in the doorway?
No, he
Objection, Your Honor.
I will sustain that objection. This witness can't answer as to what another individual did. So, and then I'll strike that answer, and then the jury will disregard that answer. You may continue, Ms. Rowe.
And when Mr. Farley refused to, let's back up. Did you see Mr. Farley videotaping inside the lobby?
He had his camera out. He was videotaping in. It was on the whole time. He didn't turn it off.
And while the video was recording and he didn't turn it off, did you notify him at that time of where he could record?
Not when not when after he hit me. I got away from right then. then later, the supervisor that came out talked to them. I let them know that they were in an area which they couldn't be videotaped.
But that wasn't the public lobby.
No, that was right up to the side there where he went.
So it was the supervisor who notified him that he couldn't film behind that
I did.
barrier wall.
Objection,
I did.
hearsay, Your Honor.
So, I'm going to overrule the objection, and then I think I heard the answer. As I recall the question, you said, so it was the supervisor, and then the witness said, no, he did. I'm going to allow that answer to stand.
Okay. Did you call for law enforcement to help? Did you follow the protocol that you just testified to that, well, we heard that you asked him to leave. That's correct?
Yes,
And he refused.
yes.
And did you ever call for a supervisor then?
My partner did with the duress call and called 911.
And who did your partner call under for duress?
For duress, immediate duress call calls for any supervisor available up to the front desk.
Any supervisor of the DSHS office or any supervisor of the security guards?
Secure the office. Supervisor of the office.
So it's the supervisor of the office
Yes.
that you call if a patron does not obey your command?
Yes.
And why do you notify? Why is it the job of the supervisor instead of being your job?
Objection,
That's their
Your Honor,
protocol, ma'am.
speculation.
Pardon?
And
That's their
relevance.
protocol.
And then I'm going to sustain the objection.
Did the supervisor come out?
Yes.
Did the supervisor confirm with Mr. Farley that the lobby was a public space?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay and relevance and speculation.
Sustained on hearsay grounds.
Did the supervisor have a communication with Mr. Farley?
Yes, he talked to him.
And while the supervisor was talking to Mr. Farley, was Mr. Farley recording that communication?
I really don't know.
Now, when a patron comes to the DSHS office, is it your or part of your duties to inquire why a person is there?
Why they're there? I help. It's part of my job to help get them to the navigator to get answers. Sometimes they're going up to the.
I'm maybe you didn't not understanding my question. Are your job duties to inquire whether, why, and what a person is doing at the DSHS office?
No, it's not.
Did you ask that question of Mr. Farley? Yes or no?
I assume they had business here.
Was he required to answer you?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance and speculation.
Sustained.
So even though it's not your job duties, you on this incident asked Mr. Farley why he was there.
Yes.
Did Mr. Farley give you an answer?
Yes, he did.
Is it part of your duties as a security guard for Pierce County security to make decisions as to whether a person's reason for being there are valid or not? Is that your job?
No.
And if a person in response to that question indicates, I'm there for my own business, are there any duties that you are sworn to uphold to follow up on that?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
As part of your role as a security guard, are you given the duty of assessing whether someone else's reasons are valid or not?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance. Basic.
Are you allowed, as part of your duties as a security officer, to, and is it part of your contract with DSHS that you are allowed to confiscate personal property?
Objection, Your Honor, this is facts that are not in evidence.
Okay, it's been asked already, and he's given an answer, but I'll allow him to answer it again. Go ahead,
No.
Mr. Rainey. You can answer what her.
No.
And if you want her to repeat that question, she can do that.
Please repeat it.
I heard your answer loud and clear, so thank you. Were you required to report this incident that occurred as part of your duties as a security officer?
Yes.
And did you report what happened?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Overruled.
And did you report the incident that occurred that day?
Yes.
Who did you report the incident
I
to?
reported to my supervisor and the supervisor of DSHS.
So you reported it to your supervisor of the security guards?
Yes.
And the supervisor at the DSHSR?
Yes.
In your reporting, did you include the fact that you were attempting to assert some authority over Mr. Farley's cell phone?
Objection, Your Honor. That's facts, not in evidence, and it's hearsay.
I'll overrule the objection.
Question, I'm sorry.
Did you, as part of your report to both your supervisor being a security guard and the supervisor at DSHS, that you were attempting to exert control over Mr. Farley's recording
Your Honor, I
device?
have to object again. It's
already
similarly
overruled the objection.
not something he testified to.
He can answer the question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Why didn't you include that fact?
When trying to take his recording? What was that?
Did you report that you were attempting to exercise control over Mr. Farley's recording device to your supervisor?
Yes. I told him that.
You
Yes,
just
sir.
said no.
I'm sorry. I'm deaf and I've had 4 strokes in 1 year. I'm sorry. Okay.
And what was your supervisor's response to this report?
To control the video recording, you mean?
Yes. What was your supervisor's response to you telling him you were attempting to exert control over Mr. Farley's recording device? What was his response when you reported that?
I didn't control his recording device. What did he say? Well, you write it down and report what you need to report. I didn't try to grab nothing, control anything.
Did you report to your supervisor that you had not notified Mr. Farley of the public areas where he was allowed to record?
Objection.
Yes or no?
Your Honor, relevance.
I'm going to sustain that objection.
Now, I believe your testimony was that Mr. Farley was not made aware of the rule at first. Is that correct? Yes or no?
It wasn't made of the rule, no.
Cameras, camera recordings of incidents of the lobby at the DSHS office?
No.
No cameras inside the DSHS office?
None.
Would it surprise you to learn that there were cameras there?
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay,
That's
I'm
not
going
an
to
evidence.
sustain the objection. And so,
As part of your duties as a security officer, are you allowed to touch another individual?
No. Unless being attacked.
During the altercation, did Mr. Farley request that you get back out of his personal space?
Yes.
Did you do so
Yes, I did.
immediately?
He hit me first off, yes.
Were you in Mr. Farley's personal space in the outside lobby? Yes or no?
Near him, yes.
Were you in Mr. Farley's personal space when he was attempting to enter from the lobby from the public lobby into the public lobby of the DSH office?
Objection, Your Honor. This calls for speculation on Mr. Farley's subjective intent and feelings regarding.
I didn't ask any questions about intent. I asked if Mr. Rainey was in Mr. Farley's personal space in the entryway of the door. Yes or no?
okay, I'm going to sustain the objection, and the personal space is a subjective thing from one individual to the next. And you may ask your next question.
You just viewed the video that the state played?
Yes.
From the video, do you observe yourself being quite close to Mr. Farley during your encounter with him?
Yes, he kept coming toward me too.
Did he keep coming towards you, or were you coming towards him?
He kept coming toward me first off, yes.
Was he trying toward you, or was he trying to enter into the lobby?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
And I'm going to sustain the objection on this witness can testify as to another subjective intent.
When you sustained contact from Mr. Farley, was he requesting that you move back? Yes or no?
Yes.
I don't believe I have any further questions, John. Thank you.
Any redirect, Mr. Fortunato?
Your Honor, the city has 2 questions it hopes to ask Mr. Rainey.
Good afternoon. Did you attempt to take
Mr. Farley's phone that afternoon?
No, I didn't.
What were you trying to prevent Mr. Farley from recording that afternoon?
The personnel that were in there, the clientele, a lot of them don't want to be recorded because a lot of times they've just lost their job and or down and they don't want to be recorded while they're in a downside. Would you? I mean, it's what it's the reason why. Didn't want to.
Objection, Your Honor. I believe that's calling for this witness to speculate on what other persons are thinking or
I'll
believing.
sustain your objection. You can ask your next question. Although you said you had two, but
That was the
you
only
have
two
more if you-
questions.
You can have more if you wish.
Nothing further from the city, Your Honor.
Any recross, Ms. Rowe, in response to those two questions?
Even though you came to the conclusion that persons inside might not want to be recorded, the persons located inside were sitting in a public space, correct?
Your Honor, objection. That's a legal term of art, public space. That's not a question Mr. Rain can answer.
I'll overrule the objection. He's already answered, and you can ask your next question.
That's the only questions I had, Your Honor.
Anything
Thank you.
further, Mr. Fortunato?
Nothing from the city.
Okay. May this witness be excused?
Yes, he may.
You can sit down, sir. Here you go. And Mr. Fortunato? State have any additional witnesses?
State or city does not have any additional witnesses, Your Honor. The city rests.
Okay. So members of the jury, we're going to take the city is now rested. We're going to take our afternoon recess. I'm hoping about 10 to 15 minutes, but again, as you've already learned, I'm not a great prognosticator at how long the break's going to be, but it should be about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll come back into session. Take them back. You can be seated in the courtroom. Wait for the door to close. So Ms. Rowe, your client tends to testify. We're going to proceed to argument. Instructions and argument.
I need to confer with him for a quick minute. Your Honor, if I
Step
could,
outside. I can leave the bench for a few minutes.
if you wouldn't mind, I just
Let's
need,
limit it to 5 minutes, okay?
that's fine. Yeah,
Okay,
I just
mean,
need to
said
gather my
1:15, It
thoughts.
was 1:45, so let's
Understood.
actually keep to the schedule here.
Understood.
Oh, good Lord. It won't let me share the video here. Let me try this again. Just a second.
I got tied up in the other courthouse.
Okay, so the defendant comes out and testifies, and I can't get it over. I was trying to get it over right now. I've got the video, but whatever. I'm trying to transfer it over. Here's the verdict. Let's put an end to this thing. I wanted to show the defendant testimony, but whatever. And it's long, and then the closing arguments are horrible. They take forever. But I can't get it right now, so let's just do the verdict and be done with it.
And but I'm here now, and I'm informed the jury has a verdict. And so we'll bring the jury in. You can find me on your way out, on your way by.
I think I just got it now. I'll play the defendant for anybody who wants to see afterwards.
Your verdict and you, ma'am, juror number 2, am I correct in assuming you're the presiding juror? I see you have the verdict in your hand. I'll have you fold it against itself there on the inside, and then you can go ahead and put the crease in there. You can hand that to the clerk. She'll bring it to me, and then I'll read it into the record, and you can be seated. City of Tumwater versus Jeremiah Shane Farley. The jury verdict reads as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant Jeremiah Shane Farley not guilty of the crime of assault in the 4th degree as charged in count 1. And juror number 1, is this your verdict? Yes. Is this a verdict of the jury? Is this your verdict? I'm sorry, ma'am, you need to answer out loud. Okay, and this the verdict of the jury? Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this the verdict of the jury?
Yes.
Is this your verdict, sir?
Yes.
And this is the verdict of the jury? Yeah. And you, ma'am, in the back, this is your verdict? Yeah. Is this the verdict of the jury? And then finally you, sir, this is your verdict?
Yes.
And this is the verdict of the jury?
Yes.
I now lift all my previous instructions. You're free to talk with whoever about this case with whoever you like. At the same time, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. I am going to send you back to the jury room, and then you can wait for a few minutes. I'll come back and excuse you formally in just a moment. There's a reason why they call this to practice a law, in the sense that attorneys always like to talk to jurors post-verdict, find out what resonated, what didn't. And then if you wouldn't mind waiting for a minute, I know the attorneys would like to speak with you for just a few moments, but given the amount of time that we've been here, you don't have to be here for very long. You've been here all day. It's been a long day for everybody. But for right now, you can go back to the jury room. And so I guess I'll enter an order that Mr. Farley remain released. All conditions have been lifted, and that'll be that. Do you folks wish to speak with the jury?
I would.
All right, well, there you have it. I completely disagree with the jury. However, I look at this. First of all, this happens all the time. Juries come back with crazy stuff. I disagree with it here. However, I didn't see the video. The video could be really bad. I mean, the prosecution presented it, but that doesn't mean it was good. The testimony between their best eyewitness that was in the lobby and him was not inconsistent necessarily, but it wasn't exactly the same. Their independent witness is saying he's grabbing for the phone, and this guy is saying, I just got cold cocked. That's a significant difference. And you've got beyond a reasonable doubt as a standard. I'd like to see this guy convicted because I think he's disgusting. I think the First Amendment stuff is a red herring here. The guy hit a 67-year-old security guard who thought he was doing his job. Let's say he was wrong. It doesn't give you the right to just go off and hit him. That was the testimony. Now, if you don't believe it, that's fine. Or if the video contradicts that, which I didn't see and you didn't see, fine. But that's where you are. So those are my thoughts on it. But I know that there you go. You have your verdict. Anyone who wants to, but I'm going to throw up the defendant's testimony. The closing arguments are not worth seeing. They are simply not worth seeing. But I'm going to throw up the defendant's testimony for anybody who's still interested. I know it's been super long, but some people will want to see him testify, so I'm going to do that right now. For the rest of you, good night. Let me see what I can do here. Let me see if I can get this put together. I was working on that. I was working on that. I was uploading this stuff while this was going. That's part of what's going on here. Really, Ashley, that's the way you feel about it? I mean, I guess it is. I don't think you go. I don't think you can throw a punch because from what I saw, the testimonies that he's reaching for is even if he's wrong. Even if he's wrong, it's still a battery in my view. Even if he's wrong, I don't think he is either. But you're asking me to accept a lot of things I don't accept there. But that's what the jury thought, and that's what a lot of people in the chat think. Certainly not a majority, but yeah, you know.
Your Honor, after speaking with my client, I
I don't care if he gets convicted or not. The defendant's a grade A jackass. That much is clear.
believe that he is going to take the stand.
Okay, we'll bring the jury back in. Or actually, hang on just a second. So we'll remove the instruction.
Or maybe the defendant, I didn't see this part. Maybe the defendant does a fantastic job. I doubt that somehow, but it's plausible.
Instruction number 5 is the instruction that says he's not required to testify. We're just going to remove that.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Oh. Move along with this crap. Okay, there's the defendant. There's Super Douche right there.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may be seated. Ms. Rowe, you may inquire.
Thank you. Mr. Farley, could you identify yourself for the record?
My name is Jeremiah Farley.
Oh, thank you.
Do you remember the incident that is at issue at trial today?
Yes.
I think they should charge him with battery, which is what we do under the Illinois Criminal Code. Some states call that assault. That's weird to me. Assault is putting somebody in fear of apprehension of a battery, effectively.
And were you present at the DSHS office in the day?
If you believe the testimony, he committed a battery. Plain and simple. It's not even close. If you don't, or the video doesn't back that up, fine, I see it. But the testimony I saw was this guy hits him. That's a loser. I don't even care if he's reaching for the phone.
Of this incident.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have business there?
Yes, ma'am.
That's fair. You can say. You can say. I guess you could say he provoked it.
With Mr.
That's what
Randy,
the jury
Ray,
thought.
the security officer.
Yes.
Did your contact with Mr. Rainey begin?
It is in fact not.
In the main hallway.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm not a jury. I can pronounce someone a jackass if I feel like it.
Did Mr. Rainey try to prevent you from entering into the DSHS office?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Okay. Overruled.
Yes, ma'am.
Trespass might have been easier. I don't know. I don't deal with this stuff,
The
but
contact that occurred happened in the threshold or doorway of the DSHS office.
Yes, ma'am.
Who made contact with who first?
Mr. Randy made contact with me.
Was that contact warranted? Yes or no?
Objection, Your Honor. That called.
Sustained.
Thank you.
Was that contact offensive?
Yes.
Did you notify security guard Rainey that his contact was offensive?
Yes, ma'am.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to overrule that objection.
Thank you.
Did security guard Rainey touch you more than once?
Yes, ma'am.
Was security guard Rainey very close to your physical person?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ask him to get out of your personal space?
Objection, Your Honor. Leading.
Sustained.
What did you do when security guard Rainey was in your personal space?
Objection, Your Honor. Leading again.
They'll overrule that objection. Can you repeat it, please?
What did you do when security guard Rainey came into your personal space?
I tried to move him out of my personal space.
Did you tell him to back up?
Objection, Your Honor. Leading.
Sustained. But
How many times did security guard Rainey come very close to you?
Multiple times.
At any time, did you ball up a fist and punch the security guard?
No, ma'am.
Please describe the contact that you had with security guard Rainey.
Okay, so his testimony is he didn't do it. The independent witness's testimony is that he hit him. The victim, the alleged victim's testimony is that he hit him. We haven't seen the video. If there's a hit, I ring him up. If there isn't, I don't. I didn't hear it. I heard him being a jackass, but I didn't hear him hit him. That's the guts of it right there, and we just don't get the video. I'm sorry.
He had me in a corner.
I wasn't there.
I felt threatened. I didn't know why he was coming at me. So I pushed him away from me. Multiple.
You knew exactly why I was coming at you, jackass. He told you. He announced it. That much is not even in doubt.
times.
Did he sustain any injuries from those pushes?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Sustain that objection.
Were there any visible injuries as a result of this contact?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Did you speak to a supervisor at the DSHS office?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ask the supervisor whether the inside lobby was a public space?
Objection, Your Honor. Leading.
Got you, but if the jury saw the video,
Sustained.
they can figure that out.
Did the supervisor call law enforcement?
Objection, speculation, and hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You did have communication with the supervisor?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, have fun. I had a good time out there.
Did you converse with responding officer Navarro?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you relay to him your version of what happened that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Please don't support this knuckle dragger by watching his videos. That's all I'm asking. You know, even going over to his page to say something nasty, just don't. Just ignore the loser.
Still be very brief. Good afternoon, Mr. Farley. The video we watched, that's your recording of the events of the day, is that correct? What was your business at the DSHS office in Tumwater that day?
My own business.
Your own business?
That's what I said.
One moment. You said your own business. Would you elaborate a little further for us?
I was there to
Maybe I'll get rung up
gather
there.
a FOIA request or a
I don't really
records
much
request,
care.
I guess is what most people would call it. I videotaped the entry lobby to look at the community boards, different activities, different social groups, anything that there might be going on in the community. And then I attempted to go get my records request.
You pushed the security guard to get away from you? Is that true?
Yes, sir.
You physically touched Mr. Rainey, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You did not let any of the patrons there that day know in advance that you were going to be recording them, is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor, leading and outside of the scope of direct.
Leading questions are allowed on cross-examination. And you allow an answer to this question, then you need to move on after that.
Okay.
Can you repeat it again, please?
You did not let any of the patrons that were present that day know in advance that you were going to be recording them. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Rowe, anything further?
Yes, one last question. Were you recording individuals in the lobby?
No, no, ma'am.
No further questions.
You can go ahead and retake your seat, sir.
Thank you.
Assuming, was there any redirect?
Oh, no redirect.
So, do you not believe that he hit the guy? That's the question, Ashley. First of all, I dispute this premise, but do you think that this guy can just go in there and clock a 67-year-old?
Direct or recrossed, rather.
Is that the world you want to live in?
Additional witnesses?
Really?
I do not, Your Honor.
Again, we're going to that was a quick session, but we're going to take a quick break. And this one, I'm pretty confident that this will not be very long. And then you'll come back in, you'll get instructions on the law, and you'll hear argument from counsel. So go ahead and take a minute back. And again,
I don't know.
I should have said at the last break, but all the instructions that I've given remain in place. Don't begin deliberating. Don't discuss anything that you've heard thus far. You should be back in session in a few minutes.
Yeah. Okay. It's not like I didn't talk to you today, Miss Yesenia.
So you can be seated. With regard
I do remember.
to jury instructions, I've looked over the break, looked at the statute, the instruction offered by the state about the unlawful for any individual, partnership, corporation, association, and so forth, whether or not to give that or not. I'm declining to give that instruction, primarily because it talks about a private conversation on a device. Looking at that statute, it's geared more towards eavesdropping or wiretapping or things of that sort, and I don't think it's appropriate in this particular case. Ms. Rowe?
There's an expectation to not be battered in public. I'll tell you that right now.
Indicated that she wished to explore the concept of defense of property. I'm not going to give that instruction either. The instruction, I've got that up in front of me here. It says person
The use of force upon another person in preventing or attempting to prevent a malicious trespass or other malicious interference with real or personal property lawfully in that person's possession when the force is not more than necessary. In this case, there was no malicious attempt at malicious interference with real property. Property was lawfully in Mr. Farley's possession, but as far as I can tell, the evidence supports Mr. Rainey just wanted to stop him from recording in a place he wasn't supposed to record. That's not a malicious interference. And when the force is not more than necessary, I saw the video, I heard the testimony from both parties. Any force was more than necessary. Mr. Farley could have prevented this whole thing simply by stopping his phone, putting it in his pocket, and that would have been the end of it. And so also, person offering to use the force, and in this case, Mr. Farley is apparently indicating that he used the force that a reasonably prudent person would use under the same or similar conditions, or they appear to the person taking into consideration all of the facts and circumstances known to the person at the time of and or prior to the incident. Again, getting back to the property, this is, I think, appropriate when someone's trying to steal some property from somebody and they can use force to prevent that. Mr. Rainey, I don't think the evidence supports that he was trying to steal Mr. Farley's phone. He was just trying to, again, prevent Mr. Farley from recording in a place he wasn't supposed to be. So I don't think a defense of property's instruction is appropriate here either. So I'm not going to give that. And then that's where we're at.
Thank you.
And so I have the instructions here. I've removed that. You can take, I have one both for you and your attorney, Mr. Farley. I have one for both attorneys at the state's table.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear that last part.
I said I have copies for Mr. Farley and Ms. Rowe, and I have copies for both attorneys at state's table.
Cities.
Cities.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll leave it there. The closing arguments, I'm not kidding you. The prosecutor speaks to his credit for about 1 minute, and that's good. She goes on for, I'm not kidding, there's another hour of closing argument of her repeating the same crap. It's with pauses between every word. It's another hour. If you want to see it, it's up. Go see it. Go see it. Where are we at here? We're at over 3.5 hours on this deal. After the craziness in the divorce case that I did today, which I thought was going to be like an hour hearing, and then all of a sudden I've got 8 hours into it. I've got the lovely and gracious Yesenia gently yelling at me, not yelling, but just reminding me that I've got 2 hearings tomorrow, which I know because I actually talked to her. I talked to her today. It's all good. It's all good. Thanks for coming out. You know what? I'll say this for this hearing. If you go back to the beginning, the first half hour was freaking hilarious. It really was. I was really enjoying it. And then, but then it was a trial. I wanted to show the whole thing. Meanwhile, I'm like patching together extra videos while it was going. I'm literally downloading stuff while I'm playing here on another computer and trying to transfer it. Whatever. It was all good. I don't like the result, but whatever. The guy's a loser. He'll get rung up in this next one or something. He'll get his comeuppance soon enough. I find it distasteful that he gets to take a free swing at a guy with 4 strokes who's deaf, trying to make a couple of bucks at a freaking welfare office in Washington. That doesn't sit well with me, but it's not the greatest tragedy I've ever heard either. And I'm accustomed. Juries do goofy things. I think they got this one wrong, but that's our system. So you take it and you move on. That's how it is. All right. Thank y'all for coming out. I appreciate it. I'll see y'all soon.